If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. First items on the agenda tonight are board elections for chair, vice chair, and clerk. So we're all vacating our positions currently, and we're going to do elections to the positions.
You sure Peter's coming, or? Right? He did say, right? He knows 7:30 or 6:30, or we're all responsible adults, right? I guess. Do you want to wait a couple of minutes?
Yeah. Well, so while we're waiting a couple of minutes, let's talk about the senior residential development bylaw and the support we have on this board for it, and who sits as chair and how they're going to champion the bylaw that we worked so hard to get approved.
See, wait 5 minutes, look what you get. Oh, wrong one. What was that gibberish you just said?
How we're going to champion the senior residential development bylaw that we put through, that we all worked so hard on to get put through at town meeting, and how we're going to take care of our seniors in this town.
That's the number one agenda for that bylaw, is to take care of the seniors, something that makes sense for seniors that live in this town and that continue to live in this town and can afford to live in this town.
Right.
I'm all for that.
Excellent.
I think that's the most important thing we do this whole year, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
We just did it, so we have to tweak it maybe a little bit and get it
So
so
we got the bylaw as written. We worked very hard to get it on the agenda and approved, and it's approved. I don't think tweaking it, I think we can negotiate terms with every individual that comes before us. I don't know that we necessarily need to tweak the bylaw.
I'm just one member on this board, and I just think there are some deficiencies that we need to address in it. How's that? We did a good job getting what we did. I just think it needs a little more structure to it, that's all. And that's on any bylaw. Any bylaw we write, after a while, we kind of realize that maybe we should have added this to it or done that to it, and that's all.
Yeah,
Just-
occasionally there needs to be amendments, and you see that in the conversations that come forward after something has been planned.
Or it doesn't
worked
work the
on.
way we thought it was.
Yeah.
It's, it's a
Work in progress, agreed.
A living, breathing
Living,
document.
breathing, yes.
Perhaps.
But I think it's very important to the seniors that they've waited long enough, and
I agree. So one of my hopes in this coming year is that we get a senior residential development approved. I think that would be an important step forward.
but not just
We can't
approving
just
for the sake of it.
Rush, yeah, we
It's gotta
can't
be
just rush it
approved.
in.
It's gotta be one that really fits the needs that we're really trying to address. That's my only caveat. Still no.
I would agree.
Okay, well, have we filled 5 minutes?
I think we have. So after that debate, I think we should entertain a nomination for chair of the planning board. Does anybody want to make a motion for chair?
She's the new girl, you can't ask her. She's just here for the
I'm not a
ride
girl.
tonight.
I'm not a girl.
She's the new mom in town.
I am the new board member.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to, appoint, or, right, nominate, I'll nominate Ed Mullen for chair.
So we have a nomination for Ed Mullen as chair.
Do you want to be chair?
That being said, I have some other things on my agenda this year that I was going to try to accomplish. I appreciate the nomination.
I don't think he wants it.
Well, I'm concerned about how we move forward with some of the bylaws that we've worked on, so. But I'm going to decline the nomination. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jamie.
You just don't want all those emails.
He wants his life back.
It's been a lot of work in this past year, and it's been rewarding. It's been hard. But I think at this time it's,
I don't think people see how much goes on, like, with the communication with townsfolk and how much they reach out to you, and I kudos to anybody who has served in the past, and thank you for your time with it. So
Jamie, thank you very
the
much.
small light that I've seen just serving as your vice chair is it's pretty wild, the time that folks commit to that.
Thank you. So, thank you for the nomination. I'm going to decline it. I'll make a motion to nominate Mark Montanari as chair to the planning board. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I can't vote for myself, right?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I don't know if it's a good thing.
So
or
now you
bad
can
thing.
finish the elections because you are now the chair.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna move. I think I'll still sit here.
I think you should, yes. We need a vice chair and a clerk.
Vice chair. No, you don't want it. You were just vice chair. You don't want to do it now. You know what? I'll take a page out of yours. I think Ed should stay on in some capacity and be vice chair. Yes, no?
Sure. I'd be happy to be
I'll
your
nominate
vice.
Ed.
I don't have the time for that with the baby at home.
I think as a transition too, it'd be nice to have Ed there because he's been actively involved in everything, and it'd be a nice transition to keep
I
him on
agree.
as vice chair. If you have at least enough time to do that, it won't be as much as you had before, but it'll still be time consuming. I'll make a motion that Ed Mullen be vice chair. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Anyone opposed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now,
Mr. Chair, if I may, for clerk, I would like to nominate our newest member, Annie Houston, to be clerk. So,
I have no problem with that. I'll second that.
okay.
You don't want it, no, no. It's not a big deal. They give you a rubber stamp and Maren takes care of it.
And you let me know how much you trust me with it.
And you get to read once in a while. All right, all those in favor of Anna being clerk signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. What else we got?
So then we got appointments to boards and committees, to other committees.
I believe Anna wants to stay on the master plan implementation committee.
But she would move, what is your position now on master plan?
It is currently as vice chair.
As vice chair, as
A
citizen
resident at large. So
Oh,
she-
I'm sorry, citizen at large.
All right,
That
so-
is correct. So it would be moving as a
Liaison.
liaison from the planning board.
Okay. But be able to retain the vice chair position?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, that's independent of
Okay, great.
who.
As long as we
where
weren't
she's
pulling her out
appointed
of a
from.
position that she held currently.
Right.
I'll make a motion to nominate Anna to the master plan implementation committee as representative of the planning board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What else we got?
We have the new Transportation Advisory Council, and I would like to volunteer, so if I could get nominated, I'll take
I'll
it.
nominate Ed Mullen for the Transportation Advisory Council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we also have Community Preservation Committee. I will nominate Peter Scott for. Community
I'll
Pres-
let you nominate Peter for that one, sure.
All right.
I'll second that one.
All those in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
That's
No,
hard to get
keep
up.
going, it's fine, you're doing fine, it takes a while to
Yeah.
get used to it, don't
Yeah,
worry.
so-
Signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
What do we got left?
The agricultural working group had put a recommendation into the Board of Selectmen, I believe, to have a representative from the planning board involved in that group. And it was a part of a discussion. I am not on the working group, and
Do you want to be?
yeah, I would like to be, and I think the Agricultural Commission believes that having the link with the planning board, because that group is fairly new and recently rebooted, and it is determined some of the practices and layouts of some of these parcels of land that are coming forward from developers as being bartered off for other items, and we just think having that link right there is an important piece to all these conversations. I know it's been missing in the past. I know it's not listed on,
What is the name of the?
it's the Agricultural Working Group, and it's made up of the CONSCOM, two representatives from the Conscom, AgCom, and Board of Selectmen, and they're looking, and at one of the recent meetings, they were hoping that there could be somebody involved from the planning board.
I'll nominate Jamie Cruz to be the representative for the
I'll second
agricultural
that.
working group.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See how easy it is? That's all we do.
Magic representative.
Yes,
Maren, in the past and in the future, you will continue to do that?
I'd be happy to.
So I'll nominate Maren as our magic representative.
Second. See,
She's
this
our
was good. I
magic
just second banana. That's good. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You start, I finish.
There you go.
I'm the closer.
Okay, so two things on the Transportation Advisory Council. They're looking for an alternate as well.
Do you want to do it since you're doing transportation already?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
He's
Oh, an
he's
alternate for you.
An alternate
I'll-
for,
I'll be your alternate.
Okay.
I'll do that.
and,
I thought you were talking about through magic.
okay. Now, the Master Plan Implementation Committee, starting July 1st, will have two openings. One, Gary LaCroix is not interested in staying on, and Anna's position, since she moved from,
Well, it's really my position.
yeah,
I'll go to the 17th. I'll go to the next meeting that we have, and then that'll probably be my last one, yeah.
so there are,
Two citizens at large?
yes,
Oh.
you need two citizens at
Oh, yeah,
large,
that's right, with Gary.
and there are two applicants.
Well, doesn't that work out nice?
Yes. Megan Ford and Lyle Webster. So, and the information is posted on the website there somewhere, the control sheets, but if you want to, if you have any questions, but otherwise, if you would make those appointments effective July 1st. It's a joint appointment, Planning Board and Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen will take it up June 11th at their meeting. If you could make those appointments now, then they can be effective.
How about you? Do you have a chance to review any of the applicants?
I did. So I think that both of them have, I think that both of them have qualities that will enhance the master plan committee. For example, Megan has been a small business owner for some
And
time.
she was the sewer.
And she was the instigator of the sewer project the first time around. Lyle Webster is an architect by trade and longtime history in the town, so I think each of them brings something to the committee.
We have Mike here. Do you have any problems with either one of them?
No, actually, I sent a letter that got, I guess, lost in the Ethernet, that basically echoes what my colleague Anna has just indicated. I strongly support them. In fact, we'd like very much to have those skill sets added because we're going to need all the help we can get.
Well, I should say, I can't speak that I know them well, but I know of both of them, and I know the work they've done in town has been important, and I look forward to having them on there.
So then why don't we make a motion to approve the two nominees from our standpoint to the Master Plan Implementation Commission, subject to the selectmen.
Would you make that motion? 'Cause you-
Sure, I move to nominate Megan Ford and Lyle Webster to the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Effective
July 1.
July 1.
Effective July 1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else we got? So we're done with,
Is there anything else on appointments?
I believe that's it.
that's everybody? Okay, so we have a 640 K endorsed plans for the covenants and lot release request.
All right.
I didn't know if you wanted to take time now to endorse the plans, or if you.
We have 20 minutes, so why don't we endorse the plans while we're all out of time?
Right.
We have a, go ahead, start.
Yeah, I'll listen while
Just
you-
gonna start bringing everybody up to speed. Green International reviewed the final sets of plans, and they got the final okay on this set of plans. Town clerk will sign as soon as she has a few minutes to come in and sign, but there was no appeal. They sent over the bond amount for Fur Lane. That's the little cul-de-sac, the first little cul-de-sac off to the left off of which road? Off of Fraser. They will be looking, have requested bond release for the Fur Lane lots.
31 through 33.
What about, why aren't we getting a bond for the whole thing?
Because they're not looking for lot release yet for the rest of the lots. They have, so I ask you to endorse the plans and the signature page for covenant. Town council had one correction and one question on the covenant, but they were pretty minor. And it's just a matter of making the corrections. I did print out the signature pages, if you wouldn't mind signing those. I think we're all in agreement that that's ready to go. So that's the tri-party agreement for the bond. And I forgot the covenant form. Do you have one?
I do.
Thank you.
With this many sheets, you don't understand why my signature's this way.
Oh, yeah, I make a motion that
That's the
Mr.
tri-party,
Mullen
that's
make
the
a new
agreement, that's
signature.
the covenant.
I don't think a Z is acceptable anymore.
It looks like an E.
Now that
Yeah, I
he's-
see an E.
Now that he's not
So-
chair, I think we need
Mr.
a,
Chair, I have a question. So, given that I'm the newest member, and you all have gone through this process with Cape Properties, I'm wondering if I should be signing these, given the fact that I haven't been a board member during the duration of those
yeah, I don't
conversations.
think you can, well, we have,
That's a very good question, and we've had the question before. Endorsement on the plans is just verifying the board's prior vote. So you can do that if you want. It only requires 3 signatures, so you don't have to.
And then these,
This one is, this is the form for the tri-party agreement, form for the bond. Town council has approved that. It's kind of moving forward now. So, again, if you want to sign it, you certainly could.
you want to. Okay. The old days, we didn't do tri-party agreements. Right, Maren?
I'm sorry, what?
The old days, we didn't do tri-party agreements.
That's right.
Cold hard cash, that's all we wanted.
Yeah.
See, that looks like my name.
question, what caused the change?
Law.
Not really the law, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
better bonding companies. We used to ask for a passport back in the old days.
Cash.
Cash.
Yeah.
Now it's,
I've seen it go full circle now.
Yeah.
Because remember Meadow Lane?
and we had a couple that we couldn't get any money, they had the old, when Luke and Mara and I first got on the board.
This is ancient history, so.
The odds were no good. I mean, there was nobody to back them.
Yeah.
So then we went to cash for
Right.
20 years, whatever. Now it's, bonding is a lot better, a lot more stringent. And it's actually probably a better deal for the developer because they don't have to come up with $100,000 in cash. They just post a bond for
It's only 28
it.
pages.
It's an insurance policy is what it
Okay,
really is.
right.
You're going to sign
Yeah,
that
no,
next?
All
I
28
get what it
pages?
is, yeah.
Yeah. You want to sign that?
It's different when we could get like 6% on it.
All right, so can we do board business while we're, my agenda, we're gonna be more efficient. So if you wanna do it with bills,
Yeah, I'll grab those.
Ed, did you want to send this top one with all the,
I didn't see it over there, I missed it. It wasn't where all the other ones were, so thank you for pointing.
so this, you can sign all of this. This is,
Paying for your bills?
yes, we have to actually pay bills.
Oh, Littleton, nope, never mind.
So each of these requires 2 signatures?
Each, as far as,
Oh, it's the same thing, but so each page requires a signature, is what I meant.
Yep.
Thank you for teaching me the process.
You'll get it.
it helps to remind me what it is I'm asking for. Coming off the copy? I like this. We're just ready to run up the stairs.
Minutes, and anybody have a chance to look at
Ed,
minutes?
there's a missed one over here too.
Thank you. So there's 30 pages to sign, right?
Is that right?
Ed, did you have a chance to look at minutes?
I did review the minutes. I'm making a motion to approve them as written.
Second? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
I will let you know.
I'll stay here.
You don't realize Myron's minutes are usually pretty, right, she might miss a
Well,
and and a the.
Marin's minutes? or-
These are Janet's minutes.
Janet's.
Oh, well, maybe we should look at them.
I did.
All right. Well, she's not even here.
So we have the annual request from the accounting department on how to pay bills and payroll. In the past, we've always required a majority signature on both of those. With the new accounting system, we may want to move to a different system for something other than a majority of the board for signing off on the bills.
Do you want to just have clerk do it? I don't have a problem. Do you have a problem
That's up
with
to
that?
you. Certainly could.
I think the majority is probably something we should maintain. I think it depends on the threshold of the amount.
We don't have a lot of bills. It's mostly,
Do you do thresholds, like say anything over 1,000 or anything over, 5,000 or anything like that?
You can set it up as you wish. It's just a matter of bringing something, now that the billing system is going to be automatic, we're going to be dealing with less paper. So we're going to have to figure out a way to bring a cover sheet to the meeting for your signatures. So if you want to stick with majority for now, we'll do that. If it's causing a problem and a delay in
We
getting the
stick with
bills
it.
paid, then I'll ask again.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
Everything as it stands.
I'm just thinking, that, Ed's signature's so labor intensive, maybe we just have Anna sign it for us, so.
There he is, Mr. Sunshine.
And
Sign this after we're done.
Mark, there are numerous on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I know, I've gotta go page by page. Yeah, let me do mine first, and we're doing them all, because this is so many of them.
And thanks to Janet, we have magically now have the Form F covenant for K Estates. This is the decision, the agreement between the town and the developer, that the developer's going to build the subdivision according to the plans, and you can't get building permits until you release lots from this covenant. If you will sign the signature page, I won't hand it off until town council has reviewed.
Should make this, all the signature pages should be the same.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to out, little information out of where?
Town clerk has not signed the plans yet, so I'll hold it.
Reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then vote to set the bond amount and vote to release the lots, if you're ready to do that.
Through the chair.
You can take over the rest of the stuff going on if you want. It's on the agenda.
So we need to set the bond amount and then vote to release the lots, so we have,
So-
the internationals, we'll get to that.
Yep, the proposed bond amount is $270,000 for Fur Lane. And both Green International and Chris Stoddard at DPW have reviewed and agreed to that number.
Okay. Well, Mark's up signing, I'll just say that if we can get a motion from somebody to vote the 240,000 for the bond.
270?
I'm sorry, it says 240 here.
No, the updated number is 270. That was the preliminary number?
270.
Yes, they found some curbing that was missing from the first one.
Okay, great. It's 270,000 is the bond amount. I can get a motion.
And we had,
Green and Chris Stoddard, town engineer, both weighed in.
okay, perfect. I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? One abstention.
Okay, and then the request is to release the three lots on Fur Lane. Once the
Release the
bond-
lots 31K, 32K,
2K,
and
and
33K.
I don't know if you can put your
Do I need
finger
a motion for that?
Yes, can I get a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to release the lots on the K Estates, 31K, 32K, and 33K.
I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Littleton, Mass.
Here you go, Peter, it's all yours. There's a couple
Why don't you
on the
just
left.
sign mine?
Wish I could.
Go ahead, Chris.
Why don't you just put mine in after?
I just took my own name now.
No further discussion on K.
No further discussion on K, right?
We've got a few
It's
minutes.
done. Or at least that part of it is done.
That's right.
7 o'clock is board business, so 7:15, we've got a few minutes to give
Only
time.
three, you don't care about signing it, right?
You want to catch Peter up on the elections?
Oh, you
You
can.
better be careful of what you attempt to have placed me on,
Hey, you weren't here, I didn't do it.
yeah?
Watch
You're
the,
gonna have to redo them then.
watch the film. News at 11.
Snooze, you lose.
Thank you.
Public input. Minutes,
So, Peter, by the sitting arrangement, it's, Mark is our new chair, I'm the vice chair, and Anna is the clerk.
Anna stays on as master plan implementation, for our liaison for master plan implementation. Jamie goes to agricultural, and you go to
What is it? CPC.
CPC. Now, that's like a hockey team, you're gonna be working on a hockey team.
CPC?
CPC.
What's that again?
Community Preservation Committee.
You might be looking to preserve your life, you keep that up.
I didn't do it. Watch the film.
And then I'm on the Transportation Advisory Committee.
So you get to ride the T for free?
Yeah, from here to Concord and back.
Public input for what, though?
If there is any.
You guys want to talk about anything?
I want to talk about the status of where iParty, all the, like, those places are
Signs?
with the signs and the point. Because there was something brought to our attention by Roland about some folks being in conflict with the bylaw.
I think the only one that's still in conflict is iParty, right?
No, I think Market Basket is also.
I thought they weren't.
What about
Okay,
the
wait.
ones sitting by the road and that are in the, attached to the,
The containers?
I'm just curious to see, we haven't heard anything since, so.
Yeah, what I've done is requested an application from the developer for, to modify the special permits, because that's what allowed you to set a separate sign regulations for that development. Still waiting for that application.
And so I've had some email discussion with Shelley, our zoning enforcement agent, and with Roland, talking about what we need to do to get them into compliance as it is written currently. And so there's a little more discussion going on, and I'm more than happy to hand the emails over to Mark and let him pick it up where
Thank
I'm
you.
leaving off.
Okay.
But yeah, there's definitely some violations. I know there was before I came on, or any of us other than Mark and Peter, I think, there was a sign.
Continue to
There was a requirement that didn't exactly fall into the town sign bylaws as written, but they have an agreement, and some of the tenants that are there are not following the agreement as written, so we could certainly.
Right, and the board has been making exceptions as we're going along, but then zoning was finding that very difficult to enforce because it wasn't ever written in one place, so that would be easiest for the building department if we would modify that decision just for the signs. But without an application, you can't take that action.
So we don't have a bylaw committee or a sign bylaw committee, like the town of Groton.
We don't have a sign bylaw committee, but we do have a sign bylaw.
Right.
And we have some special conditions that belong to the point for their signage requirements.
So it goes in front of the zoning board when,
I'm sorry, go ahead and finish the question.
so who?
So the building commissioner and zoning enforcement, they enforce when there's a violation. So they did send us a letter saying that they were in violation.
Last year,
Right.
or in June.
And so they're in violation. And at the same time, I think it's Tim Powers came before us as the developer's agent.
Yeah.
And asked for some relief, and we didn't grant it.
And that was back in February. So can we follow up on this and,
Are you asking me?
yeah, Mr. Chair?
We can ask Mr. Powers to come back.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, how about if we have a signed bylaw that we can actually put the pen to paper, so it'll be from now and for all of eternity. It's only been 7 years since the last time we
Can we
discussed.
get that on the next agenda?
Writing a sign bylaw?
Yeah.
We
Get
have
it
one.
started.
I think
Yeah, right.
that if we asked, it's my opinion that if we asked our building commissioner to come in and speak to what the sign bylaw is, and if there would be any improvements made from his recommendation, I would like to hear from him before we go writing a sign bylaw, because he's the one that enforces it. Maybe if Tim and our building commissioner both come in, we can talk about the sign bylaw and the sign violations at the point.
It's a great idea. Have them both there.
Yep.
Cool, okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Schedule that when we get both in. Very good.
We're not at 7:15 yet.
No, so we could still, what about the layout, the Cooper Farm Estates sidewalk layout?
Yeah?
What do you got?
I got nothing.
Yeah.
See, I got the plans that were submitted that. they're-
I've reviewed them.
Up.
Sure,
Is that
Please.
on here?
Congratulations, Mark.
thanks. I guess.
Matthew Field and Michael Field from Field Development, here to talk about the sidewalk. You're up. Want to
I've had-
pass out some plans?
Is that not in our packet? Okay.
Congratulations.
He gave us a handout.
Mr. Mullen?
How are you, sir?
Everything good?
Good.
Thank you.
There's so many layers on that, it's gonna be hard to depict where the new sidewalk is in relation to the old sidewalk. I've had discussions with the highway superintendent over the last year about the location of the sidewalk in relation to the underground utilities that were proposed between the sidewalk and the edge of road when we first had it drawn out. The light department didn't want the utilities in the grass strip between the edge of road and sidewalk. They preferred it to be on the outer edge of the sidewalk, closer to the right-of-way, on the outside towards the right-of-way. They also didn't want the sidewalk on top of the utilities in case there was anything that needed to be fixed, or if there was something broken, they would have to dig through the sidewalk. They also didn't want the trees that were going to be planted on top of the utilities in the grass strip as well. So, with all that being said, we also increased our sidewalk from 4 feet to 5 feet, and if we kept that where it was proposed, we wouldn't have had enough room for the utilities, the trees, and not having any cover, like any concrete over the utilities. So we proposed putting the sidewalk to the edge of berm, and Chris was okay with that. Anywhere where we didn't have any houses, we kept the sidewalk with the grass strip between that. Going in the entrance to Cooper, we kept it as proposed on the plan. We increased the sidewalk from 4 feet to 5 feet going down 2A to keep the same width as the sidewalk that was getting proposed throughout the subdivision as well.
And we kept a distance of 3 feet from the edge of the road to the sidewalk there,
As well.
to keep the pedestrians from the edge of the road.
And for snow capacity. We also, I talked to Chris about putting the trees on the owner's property, just on the edge of it, so that the town doesn't have the responsibility to maintain the trees as well. And if we do that, you know, that would help them as well.
Yeah, why wouldn't you put the trees on the owner's property?
I think they were shown in the original.
They were
open space.
proposed in the
In the
area
grass
between the
strip.
sidewalk
In the
and the
grass
curb.
strip. But having the grass strip there, you know, typically no one, you know, some people don't mow it. It doesn't get the proper amount of loam between that because it's actual, you know, when they're doing the road itself, there's always, you know, overburden put in there, and it doesn't get the proper amount of loam, so it always burns. It never looks right. Some people don't maintain it.
No, but I'm talking about the trees.
Yeah.
Putting the street trees in the people's yard, then they're responsible for them.
Yeah,
Take care
so
of
that's what I
That's what
proposed.
Chris wants.
That's what I proposed with Chris, and he said he was okay with that if we moved, and, you know, he didn't have any objections to putting the sidewalk wherever, you know, it was gonna impact the underground utilities from the electric department. If we move the sidewalk to edge of berm, and we also still have a 5-foot sidewalk there as well, so.
That's what we're asking for.
So you're asking to push it,
Yeah, I'm
So the
asking.
sidewalk's gonna be up against the curb.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's 5 feet wide, and
right up
even
against
if,
the curb.
even if we did it the way the plan showed, and we had the strip in between and the 5-foot sidewalk,
Then-
we'd be on the,
with a 40-foot easement, with a
We'd be
5-foot
outside
sidewalk, you're almost 1 foot off the 40-foot easement anyway.
So one of the notes that came from our town engineer was that maybe we should start talking about a 50-foot wide easement for future subdivisions. So it's something we should be talking about outside of this.
Chris actually did say that to me. He said, you know, it would
For
probably
future, for
help.
future developments, we should be looking at 50 feet instead of 40 feet because of all the utilities that go underground now. And no light poles anymore. So gives us, as a town, more access to the road, and then, you know, we hopefully can plan a better subdivision in the future. I'm not opposed to granting them the relief. One, I think, you know, with a 5-foot sidewalk, we're gonna meet, you know, 521 CMR requirements, we're gonna meet the ADA requirements with the sidewalks, so that, you know, that's what's required by law anyway, so the fact that they've stepped up and offered it, I'm okay with it.
And then with an additional 600 feet of 5-foot sidewalk going down to you know,
No, it's,
Peter, do you have any concerns?
no, ain't in.
No?
I don't have
Jamie?
any.
No, I agree with Ed on this one.
Okay. I'm good with it.
No,
Hannah?
so I just wanted to be clear, so it's the sidewalks inside the development and.
yes,
also
inside the
on the-
development,
Yes, ma'am.
adjacent to the houses, you know, and also with the
I have one-
open space
I have one that's highlighted, if you want that one.
Sure.
subdivision, the setback from the houses, with the setback from the house,
So,
the
I'll
sidewalk,
explain it to you.
trees.
The yellow is
You're
the sidewalk,
Really, you don't
the
have a
green is
ton of
the
room
underground
between the house and
utilities.
the sidewalk
This
as
one
it
is
is if it was
actually
out
keeping it to
8 more,
3
you know,
foot
5 more feet,
as proposed.
or
to keep
3
the
more
people off
feet,
the
so
road.
it makes the front yard look a
Inside,
little,
the yellow is the sidewalk
Yeah,
right
I
up
think,
against
I
the
think
curb.
in this
So you're saying the
scenario, it
intention is
does,
to keep people
it makes sense.
It makes sense.
No, so we have the distance of 3 feet that was proposed between the edge of the curb and the sidewalk as proposed on the original plan, which we kept here.
And why aren't we doing this one at 5 feet too?
That is 5 feet.
Oh, that is 5 feet, okay.
Yes.
Got it. All right.
That
as long
was,
as it's all
that was
5
a
feet.
4-foot sidewalk prior to, we
That was
decided.
part of the original agreement.
Yeah, it was, yeah, with the existing sidewalk that it was gonna butt, it was 4 feet, so now we just changed it to 5 feet, you know.
Make it look right.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Sidewalk.
offset sidewalk up to the berm as requested.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going anywhere, I think we're next, aren't we?
Well, we have a construction inspection report for Cooper as well.
Yes, you did. It was construction inspection report number 13.
So I have to do it here.
It's sideways on your.
Oh, sorry.
Never mind. All right.
No, just gonna bring you a paper one, Mr. Chair.
I like paper. Sorry.
You are the chair now, you
Good,
can make the
good.
request to go back to paper for some if you'd like. Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
I guess we're just gonna accept the report, right?
Yeah. What protocol we've been following recently is just to have each of the inspection reports, approved at a meeting, just approved that you've seen them.
That we've seen, okay?
What's that? What is it?
Inspection
inspection
report
report.
number 13, you would have gotten a
Yeah.
copy of it back when it was completed.
Entertain a motion to approve site visit 13 done on 5/4/2018 by Green Engineering. Anyone want to second that? Oh, you do, right? Say second.
I'll make the
Can you
motion as
make a
read.
motion? No, you can't. You're
I'll
chair
make the
now.
motion as read.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What's wrong with that? Never mind. Okay. At that, what else we got left? Mass housing grant?
Mass Housing Grant, hopefully you're all aware now that the town was awarded a $65,000 grant from Mass Housing. It's under their Planning for Housing Production program, but it's for a detailed study around the commuter rail station for what type of development the town would like to see in that area. Mass Housing will pair us with a consultant. They're pairing us with Judy Barrett, given her background and work with the town on the master plan. The amount of the local match is not quite clear yet, but we'll be working with Judy on the scope of services, and it's a minimum of 10% match, so it's not clear to us yet if it's 10% of the original application amount or it's $6,500, but we'll get that squared away, and
6,500?
yeah, would be the minimum that it is. It's a 2-year planning study, so we're not looking to rush into it real quickly, so we don't want to step on the work from the Littleton Common revitalization work, but we're going to get the scope and the schedule set as soon as we can.
Great. So I know there was a lot of thank yous flying around the email chain that was going on after we were awarded this, and I wanted to make it clear that Maren did 99.97% of the work to get us this grant, so thank you to Maren for doing the work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. On that note, we have request to spend master plan implementation funds that are under the control of the planning board for staffing for next fiscal year. Did I post that?
It's here, yeah.
Okay,
It's,
thank you.
Master Plan Implementation Funds. So, Department Clerk, grade 4, step 2, the hourly rate, and then, so here it lists, Marna, it lists Planning Administrator and Permit Coordinator with the grade 11, step 9. But we took a vote to promote you to Town Planner.
That has,
I'm just, so while we're here, I want to find out what the status is on that promotion.
yep, thank you. The job description, I think, is complete, and it will go to the Personnel Board. They're on hiatus, on vacation at the moment, but they will look at it as early as possible, I understand. So if there is an adjustment after that, then I would come back with whatever that amount might be.
You don't mind? Anthony, if I ask you, do you have any idea when they're going to convene again?
They're expected the end of June 27th, I think.
She's worked hard for us, we'd like to see her get that, so.
No question.
Well, it could probably also be done retroactively, right?
Is there a chance that it could be done retroactively from the date of promotion? Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're going to rate the position to the individual raters on the personnel board, then they'll come back to the board, and then, yeah, we can discuss that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martin. So here, the request for the release of the implementation funds is for staffing is for FY 19, right?
Right.
FY 19 is 21,298. I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Your chair.
Second.
I can't second my own.
You should give control. Now you ask.
All those in favor of it?
Aye.
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 I didn't know we were doing the Hoyle's rules.
Opposed? No, okay.
Okay. Under. Okay.
And then we skipped over D, Planning Board Rules and Regulations, Form 1A, Form 1B, and the fees.
Okay.
So, Form 1A, Aquifer and Water Resource District, drafted on June 7, 2018, Planning Board meeting. All right. It's a new application.
Yeah, 1A is the Aquifer and Water Resource, what am I trying to say, addendum to the regular special permit application. 1B is which one? H is,
I'll tell you in 1 second.
Yeah.
B is wireless telecommunications
Oh.
facilities.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions, real quick. So under the special permit 2.2.2, it says the chair shall supervise the work of the planning coordinator. Given that we will have you with a new title at some point, should we just say planning staff? Make it more generic?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. And then I just wanted to make a comment related to 3.3.2. It talks about applicants submitting written materials 10 business days before the hearing and 10 days before any subsequent continuance of the hearing. I think sometimes documentation comes in kind of at the 11th hour, and it's a little challenging to try to review it all. So to the degree that we can adhere to that, I think it would be great.
I'm just going to ask you to speak up, because I know there's a bunch of people
Oh,
here who are
I'm
going to wonder
sorry.
what you're saying. So.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the document that we're reviewing under rules and regs for permit reviews, and there's an item in here that talks about applicants submitting written materials 10 business days before the hearing and 10 days before any subsequent continuance of the hearing. I really like this because I think it helps us as a board to be better prepared so that we're not getting items at the 11th hour.
We've had it before, it's always been kind of
Yeah. So to the degree that we can.
voluntarily, if they didn't, we scheduled a meeting,
Yeah.
we still held the meeting 9 times out of 10.
So I think Anna brings up an important point. I think it's important for us to be informed, and if we have the opportunity to review the material enough in advance, some late submissions because questions come up with staff to the developer or whoever the applicant might be, I think that's okay, as long as we're included in the updates as they come in. But to apply to be on the agenda and not to submit anything before that 10-day period, I think that they should not be on the agenda at that point, because we've received nothing. So I think we should adhere to that at some point, if they've supplied some information that gets them on the
It's
agenda.
supplemental, that's okay.
Right, if they're supplementing information that gets requested by the town engineer, or another board has questions and they'd like to see us review it, then,
So you're saying if Mara doesn't actually have the plans when they come in to
right, then
lock down the time?
They're off
she
the
doesn't-
agenda.
You don't put them on the agenda.
Right, and having it written in board rules and regs at least gives me something to point to.
Okay.
Say, this is why I'm
Well, they're
being
in there,
held to-"
so we just need to start enforcing them a little more.
Well, this would
I
be the
agree
first
with-
time that you've adopted.
Right.
Yeah.
It's always been kind of
A little more
understood.
wishy-washy.
Understood, no, I agree.
exactly, yep,
If you don't have it, don't schedule it. Okay,
great,
Great, thank you.
thank you, Anna.
perfect, very good. Anything else?
So maybe you can make a motion to approve the document for rules and regs.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the rules and regs as they've been presented with the minor modifications that we've just talked about.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Cool, we up to date now?
So you good with Form 1A, Form 1B, and the fees?
I'll make a motion to approve Form 1A and Form 1B, one for the aquifer and one for telecommunications, the applications and the special permit, submissions or applications.
Is it BIB?
I'll entertain that motion.
Yeah,
Anyone
well-
want to second that?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is gonna be no fun here at all.
Okay,
BIB is, don't you?
are we all done with,
Want to ask for some public input?
does anyone have anything to talk about as far as that? Our housekeeping has to, doesn't look like it.
I just ask that those regulations be, given to me as soon as possible, because we'll be updating the town.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for reminding me.
Okay. All righty, we have a 7:15 public hearing. Senior residential development special permit.
Gets to read the public hearing notice.
Oh, yay. So now do I read the whole thing in its entirety? All right, folks, it's my new job here. All right, public hearing, senior residential development at Aquifer District Special Permit between number 80 and 94 King Street. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 7th, 2018, at 7:15 PM in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for a senior residential development special permit pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning, senior residential development, Sections 173 to 145 through 173-152, and Aquifer and Water Resource District Special Permit, Sections 173 to 61 through 173 to 64. Property location between number 80 and number 94 King Street, map U-42, parcel 9-2, property. Owner, King Street Realty Trust. Applicant, Field Development LLC. The applicant is seeking a special permit under the Senior Residential Development Bylaw and the Aquifer and Water Resource District Bylaw to allow construction of 32-bedroom, age-targeted townhouse units and associated improvements on approximately 4.4 acres at the King Street site, located between number 80 and number 94 King Street, including affordable units under the inclusionary housing zoning bylaw. Application and plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated, signed by Maren. Okay.
Before we start, Mr. Scott,
Huh?
are you going to sit on this, or are you going to recuse yourself?
I don't know, I think part of it I can because of my opinions about it. However, when it comes to voting of it, I don't think I should vote, but it's up to the applicants. If they wish me to recuse myself immediately, it's up to them also. I'll just recuse myself, the hell with it. How's that?
How about this? How about if you want to talk in general about the senior residential housing, not specific to this, then you can speak on it. But if you're going to talk specifically about this particular project, then maybe you should recuse yourself. So if you want to sit up here and...
Okay, good, thank you.
No, I'm serious.
I understand you.
Okay.
I accept
that all
your
right?
proposal.
I don't know if we should check with town council on what we just discussed and agreed upon. I think that Peter should remain in the room in case we end up in a situation where we're short a vote. But he said he would recuse himself. I think it's important that he doesn't speak while this matter's before us, if he is going to in fact recuse himself. That's all.
I just thought if we were to talk in general terms
yeah,
about the bylaw, since this is the first one we've seen.
Right, so if we want to talk in general terms, I think that we can move outside of this hearing and go to general term, and talk about the bylaw as written.
Okay.
I just have concern with it being a legal conflict.
I think you
that's
need
all.
to you need to sit off the board for this.
Is this all we have this evening? This is the only thing on the...
No, we have more. We have other things. We have Foster Street, we have a few other things. You can't go home, in other words.
I was giving it a shot, guys,
So if you wouldn't mind sitting in the audience for a little bit?
I guess. I might go to Kimball's.
All right.
Anybody want something from Kimball's?
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
We need you in the room though, Peter,
Why?
Okay.
for future. What's
So
that?
we have the proponent in front of us. Do we want to go with a brief
Yeah, we did
overview?
Last time for the.
Yes, please.
Be
Yes.
happy to. So, good evening, members of the board. Welcome. I'm Jennifer Platt from Anderson Krieger. On behalf of Field Development, I'm here with Greg Roy from Ducharme and Dillis, who's our engineer. We've been in front of you a few times just with preliminary discussions, given that the senior residential development bylaws are new, and we're one of the new projects coming up. You can see the draft plans that we have in front of you. We've had an opportunity to talk about them a number of times before, but just briefly, what we're talking about. We have a new project coming in, 8 Weber Street. It is on almost 4.5 acres. We are looking at 30 townhouse units. These are all targeted towards the senior community in town and are meant to be as affordable as possible, given development costs and market costs. But as you know, we are trying to make these more accessible to seniors in the community. Based on our bylaws, they're compliant in terms of having master bedrooms on the first floor, having 0 clearance entrances, and then there's the second bedrooms upstairs for either guests or people who don't have accessibility restrictions. As part of the bylaws, we're required to have open space. You can see there's open space around the exterior of the project, and we have only included what was sort of on the outside. We've had some discussions with the board about things that might be considered more of yards to individual units, and so we've excluded that from our calculations and from the darker coloring on the plans. But even with that excluded, we do meet the requirements set forth in the bylaws. We're not seeking any variances, for this project. It does comply with the bylaws as written. And I think this could be a fantastic addition for the town. We do have some elevations, which will show you a little bit what the front of each of these units would look like, trying to make those very attractive and accessible to the community as well. And then I will hand it over to our engineer for more details and for questions from the board.
Thank you. Again, Greg Roy with Ducharme and Dillis. Thank you for the time this evening. As Jennifer indicated, we've been before you a few times, and so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can this evening, but I did want to cover a few of the design elements. The plan in general is very similar to what we showed you a few months back in the informal session that we had. It just has more detail added by way of grading, elevations, utilities, and the like. As Jennifer indicated, it is a 4.4 acre piece of property with the SRD provisions for open space. That equates to approximately 58,900 square foot open space area that we're showing on the plan, which gets us to the 30%, in excess of the 30% required. The roadway layout that we've laid out, again, enters the property through the frontage on King Street and is 24 feet in width. And I'll try to, the laser pointer isn't going to show it, but 24 feet wide until we get to the internal exit, internal loop section where we transition to 20 feet pavement width. We are showing parking. The parking would generally be done for the units. There's 2 spaces for each unit, a garage space and a driveway space. And then in compliance with the SRD provisions, we're also showing an additional visitor spaces. We're showing 11 spaces. Your bylaw requires 1 space for every 3 units, so the requirement there would be 10. We're showing 11. We have a sidewalk network in the development, which will connect to King Street. This site abuts the high school and also is right across the street from the St. Anne's Church, so there are certainly some places to travel. So we thought it was important for a pedestrian connection out to King Street. And I don't know, do you happen to have a utility plan, Martin?
Which sheet?
3 or 4, probably 3. Yeah, that's great, thank you. Just real briefly on utilities, this is one of the sheets that was added. The site is serviced by the municipal water system, so we're proposing an extension of the water into the site to service the development. The site would be serviced by an on-site wastewater system. We've sized that for 110 gallons per day per bedroom for a total flow of 6,600 gallons per day. And we've also done and submitted the drainage calculations for the project. We are proposing 100% infiltration on this site. This is a rather unique site in that there is no off-site runoff to this site. All the runoff is existing today is infiltrated within the site. So we had no. There's no off-site runoff pre-existing, so we're obligated to make sure that there's no off-site runoff in the post-developed conditions. So our drainage design has achieved that through the use of underground infiltration systems. We'll be providing the required treatment for TSS removal, all the required operation and maintenance plans, and long-term pollution prevention plans. All that stuff has been submitted for within the drainage report. I think I will leave it at that and take any questions that the board has. We're certainly interested to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Does the board want to talk about it amongst ourselves first? Do you want to ask? Do you have any questions?
I do have several questions, and I think there are questions that the applicant can respond to. But in general, I think I appreciate any applicant who comes forward trying to figure out the new senior housing bylaw and how to make it work. I'm a little disappointed, though, that we're still coming back with 2-story instead of single-story, which is something that our seniors have said repeatedly. It even goes back to the original work that Judy Barrett did back in November of 2016 when she came here to present, saying that single-story units is what seniors really want. So I'm disappointed in that. So.
Do you have any questions, or you just want to?
Do you want me to start asking questions, or do
If you have a
others have?
question, if you have a question.
Okay, sure. So I have a question about the zero-step entrance that you refer to, because in the application, there are architectural plans. And in the architectural plans, if I'm reading this properly, there are 2 steps going in through the front and 2 steps coming in from the garage. So I don't understand how that's a zero-step entrance.
I can answer that if I may.
Okay.
Happy to. So that's an error on my part, that was a design that we had done on White Street for the models that we had built down there. We're building the same floor plan, but we calculated it so we're going to have 0 entrance into the front entrance, and we're going to pitch the garage, so we will not have steps, other than what is required by the code for the garage.
No code requirement.
So we can have the pitch, we'll have the pitch and not have a step.
Right.
We have the ability to do that with the site.
Okay. So will your plans be changing soon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Also related to the architectural renderings that you submitted, it's the 6-unit design. So one of the items is, in the bylaw, talks about avoiding building design using long, unbroken facades. Where do we, as a board, draw the line about unbroken facades?
Obviously, they're not long unbroken, so they're not unbroken. So that's something
I
to
think
take into consideration.
architecturally that there's some challenges here. I think we could work with them to come up with some design that would work. That being said, I also think it's important that we do address what Anna brought up about the second stories, second
glad
floor,
to talk
the second
about
floor
that as
bedroom.
well.
Okay.
So-
One of the other things, I know that when you were before us the first time with the informal discussion, we had also talked about perhaps garden style in this area. I think it's something we should talk about, because we can create affordable units, more affordable units, or make all units affordable. So I just wanted you to know that in my mind, that should still be on the table, so.
Well,
Yeah, we can talk about
we
it.
can talk about it, but back to your 2-story. We're trying to produce a product that, I own a real estate office, so I see a lot of people coming in and out. They don't have the ability, a lot of the people in town, to purchase, downsize from their home that they have, and purchase senior housing that takes care of the lawn maintenance, plowing, shoveling, trash, and buy a $500,000 ranch. You don't have the ability to do that on a site, because the longer the building, the more money it is. It just drives up the price. We're trying to make an affordable product for people in town. And if you start deviating from the design and have 2 bedrooms like we did on White Street, the cost of construction is significantly more. I mean, there are 2 builders right there that would agree.
Mr. Chair, what is the price point?
What is the price point? When we were in here the last time, before the 32% tariff on lumber, we were in the 350s.
Are you okay?
I have more questions, if that's okay.
Dig in.
All right. I think that there is a opportunity here to be able to engage the seniors in one of the, I'm trying to find it here. We talk about the design should support aging and community, and in our master plan, we talk about important things for the community, like the social aspects, transportation, fire, police, being able to access it well. So from a social aspect, because the backside of the development backs up to the high school, is it possible to create a pathway through the development to go to the high school? Because as seniors, they may want to be able to walk around, because the other area for them is King Street, which has a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit on it. And would that be something possible to, again, be able to allow the seniors who are moving into this development the opportunity for access to another space? I'm just asking.
We would build a path on ours any way you want it, but it's the town land. I don't have the ability to, you know.
Right, it would need to
Dig
be
into
met
the
by
building.
the town on the other
Yeah.
side. I understand that,
I
so,
mean, in our subdivision we're building now, we provided a path on our property to the adjacent property that comes out to Goldsmith Street. So we're fine with talking about that.
that would be great. That would be great.
So in talking about that, I know way back, early discussions, when you guys were talking about just tying the property up, we had an informal discussion, we talked about tennis courts for the high school or for the town. Is there any way that you see fitting those on this site at this time?
We could talk about it. I mean, I have Michael chattering in my ear. that
He chatted a little loud, I could hear him
maybe we
too.
ought to consider sitting with you at some point and talking maybe a combination of, but, I mean, I'm down this
Because
road.
that
now.
Combination of
That
garden
helps.
style and
Yes, that
the
would help the
townhouse.
density. It would lower the cost in one aspect, having garden style, and it would create more open space. So adjacent to the septic system, you could have an area that I think that other area right there goes to the high school right there in the corner there.
Yep.
Does.
That would incorporate a lot of area where either the town could have, you know, use of the tennis courts there and have a open space that would go up to the side of the
Well,
road going up over to the high school.
Thinking out loud, I'm thinking of garden-style apartments where you have a tennis court, where you have seniors living, they can either play tennis, they can watch tennis matches if the high school is playing over there for overflow. I think it's an opportunity to really create something.
We went down this road with the garden styles, and we got shot down by, I believe it was Mr. Montanari and Mr. Scott, that they didn't want to have apartment buildings in town.
Well, it's not zoned for it, so
Well,
Senior residential development bylaw allows for
I,
it.
there's independent, well, we can talk
Well,
about
why
it.
can't-
Well,
why can't
no,
we-
I mean,
why
I
can't
don't
we
wanna
have a-
spend-
Why can't we spend a little bit of time talking about?
Yeah, so I
maybe-
think we should get together and have that conversation.
Yes.
I think that I'd request the presence of, you know, a couple of select committee members as well, and see if we can't come up with something that
Excellent.
benefits the town.
he's very expensive, and we spent an
Yeah.
awful lot of money on him with the engineering because of what we were told by Mr. Montanari and Mr. Scott. And this is as in our, wait a minute, Michael. In our last meeting, you admitted that this zone, that this subdivision, as it sits, meets the current regulations, does it not?
It meets the zoning bylaw as written, except for if it's beneficial to the town or not, has yet to be determined, and if it meets all affordability criteria, so. We
Well, I
haven't.
mean, we're providing the affordability that it is required. At 30 units, we're
So at-
three affordable units.
Right, so at 30 units, so we have to talk about density, and do you get the 30 units with the acreage that you have, providing?
And the open space. We told you early on that people's backyards is not considered open space, and yet
Eliminated that in the
You have-
last drawing that.
everybody's
Mr. Boyer put
backyard,
up.
you have a little strip of land all around this thing that are people's backyards, and you're calling it open space. That's not open space. That's
It is
people's,
open
no,
space.
it's not, it's people's backyard. If you buy, you're entitled to a backyard, you can't count it as open space. You've got your open space on top of the septic, which we told you we weren't gonna accept that as well.
It doesn't state that, Mark.
Well, we told you that when we were talking about,
But
you
it doesn't
can't,
state that. Mr. Montanari, Mr. Mullins said that it met the current requirements as written.
Mr. Mullins not chairman right now, I don't think it does. I think the board needs to talk about open space. We put open space in the bylaw to use it as a regulator as to how dense it is. My thought on open space is that you've got 4.4 acres. You take 30% out of the 4.4 acres, gives you 3 acres. Then you take that and you do your multiplication on that. I only think you have 24 lots here. But I haven't had, that's my opinion. That's how I think we should be dealing with the open space, because I don't consider this open space. I consider this people's backyards, and we've said it from the get-go. You can't count people's backyards as open space. So I think as a board, we need to decide how we address open
So
space.
let me just be that, I would disagree with what he said as a member of the board.
Thank you.
Well, I would think we need to have that discussion as how we
How big's
address
the
the open space.
How big is the backyard?
20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. It's not open space. You don't want people in your backyard. If it's open space and it's open to everybody else, you don't want people walking through your backyard. You want some privacy. I don't care if you're a
You
senior.
want to jump in?
If you're not a senior, no, wait a sec, this has nothing to do, this is interpretation of the bylaw. This is the first bylaw before us, and we need to set some ground rules as to what is open space and what is not open space, for starters, and design criteria. I don't think you should take 4 acres and try to stuff as many houses as you can, put no open space on it, and have, if this bylaw, this.
I disagree with you.
Well, wait a second,
No,
that's.
not wait a second. I'm here in front of you. We came in, we designed, per your regulations, we were told by the past chair that we met it. Now, your opinion is we don't meet it.
You were told from the get-go that we didn't think people's backyard should be counted as open space. You were told in the first meeting that we
I was
didn't
told
think.
by you only, and I was told by Mr. Mullen that we met it.
Now you're in a formal hearing, and now we can decide with the rest of the board whether you do meet it.
it was a formal
It was informal discussion.
It was an
Okay,
informal
there was
discussion.
nothing before us, it was an informal discussion.
So, real quick, everybody,
How about exclusive use around your backyard?
one moment.
No.
use
Just
and a
before this
fence, and
conversation
it's-
goes any further.
Then it's not.
A long time ago, I wrote something on the board. I know this is getting heated. It's important that we talk about it, but let's keep it civil, okay? I want to keep it civil.
That's not open space. In my interpretation,
opinion.
well, I need the rest of the board to weigh in.
So, Mr. Chair, I would agree that we, as a board, need to have that conversation about what does and does not constitute open space. And it's either now or at a different time, but that conversation needs to
I
happen.
think we need some guidance here. I think we need to discuss it, what is or isn't open space.
I don't think we need any more guidance. We've had a lot of discussions about this. I think we need to have a conversation and make a decision, Mr. Chair.
May I ask a question?
Okay.
So the space right back here, that's part of the open space?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's also where the septic is going?
Yes.
Correct? Give me a
It's a
sense
level
of,
yard.
thank you, that was going to be my question, is what do you actually propose on
So
doing
it's
with it?
grassed, it's flat, you can have a ball field on, a soccer field
Okay.
use right on top of it.
All right, thank you
doesn't
for that
interfere with the
clarification.
septic function.
Okay. Can I ask two other quick questions, or are we
Sure.
still talking about
No.
this? Okay. So, given that these are townhomes, who will do the maintenance, landscaping, snow removal, all that?
It'll be done by an outside contractor.
Okay.
Through a management company.
Okay, so there'll be like an
Homeowners
HOA
association
fee?
For the development.
HOA fee, okay. And then, my last comment or question is, I guess really more, well, actually, two real quick. So mentioning back, and I recognize that these are town-related issues, not something that you all can do as a developer, but the idea about having a pathway to the high school, the other thought is that as folks come out onto King Street, if they're walking, is there a sidewalk on that side of King Street?
I do
I
not
don't think
believe
there
so.
is. So does that mean the town would need to put a crosswalk there as well if folks wanted to go across to the church or anything else? Because that seems to be a little risky right there, if they walk out of the development and suddenly there's no sidewalk right there.
Could be, and of course, you don't like to do this just in a vacuum. I mean, there could be some improvements made down the future, so, we thought it was important to build our, sort of connection to it, if there was ever some additional improvements made by the town in the King Street right away.
Right.
We'd be all set up for it, was our thinking there.
Okay.
We can certainly look at that, though.
Okay. So I guess in summary with my questions, what I'm doing is I'm just really combing through this and trying to make sure that what you are proposing is going to be safe, appropriate, wonderful for our seniors. And obviously, it sounds like there are still some pretty significant topics that, as a board, we need to discuss. So thank you.
I'm curious what the front yards will be like on these homes. It looks like they're pretty narrow, condo unit to condo unit. Is there gonna be grass in the front, or is it parking?
Yep. There's grass, there's a farmer's porch on the units, there's plantings in front of them, a paved walkway from the driveway.
And roughly
grass.
how big is that? Because it looks pretty compact, looking at those
Do you
templates
have
there.
an overview or something
The
from
the porch is about 30 feet back from the street,
Okay.
25 to 30 feet back from the street.
So 30 by 15, if you were to do exclusive use area on a front yard?
Maybe 30 by 30, or 25, but I don't have that, but you can
Well,
kind of
it
see.
would be divided by the unit, right?
Oh, right, oh, I'm sorry, yes,
So
per unit.
be 30 by 15 roughly?
Yes, roughly.
And that goes for the same in the backyard also?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have the full width of the unit in the back, because you wouldn't be cutting off with the garage. And then we have left, I mean, I understand the board's point. I do understand it, I think there's a disagreement, but I do understand. But we have left a, space between our open space and the back of the unit in there. So there is space for a, small deck or a patio back there.
And roughly, about what depth is
I
that?
think it's about 10 feet.
10 feet between the unit and the access
Into
to
the open
the...
space.
So, because everybody else has shared their input on the open space piece, I'm going to share mine.
Absolutely.
The 30% being a buffer zone around this, this potential development, I would not classify that as open space. While I understand that people can certainly walk this, I think that open space is a parcel that's untouched, and land left how it's always been. And having the septic over here and covering it with grass and calling it open space, I have to agree with Mark on this. And I would like to see something that's more usable, more combined, and the buffer zone around the outside, that's not open space in my mind. Just my 2 cents.
Okay,
Because everybody else shared theirs.
yeah, I agree. Ms. Mullin, do you have anything?
Well, so, I mean, I guess the board needs to have a better definition of what open space is for the applicants to come before us, so that they can make sure that when they're spending this money and designing something, that they're meeting what we define as open space, because in my mind, open space is any space that they don't develop. Right now, is this the perfect plan for open space? Maybe not. If they go to garden style, can we get a better open space plan? Probably. So there's ways to get a better open space plan with the density so that we can get affordable units for our seniors. So if they can put a grass tennis court on top of a septic system, great, go for it. If we can get a couple of clay or paved tennis courts on top of that because we made it a denser, higher building.
I guess maybe that's where the disconnect between you and I comes in. I don't think a tennis court is the most important thing. I think something that the seniors can live in. We have a video that
But
the seniors...
seniors might want to play tennis. I'm just saying, or whatever that open space is, as long as they provide us with open space.
I guess I go back to the video that was done by the seniors, and the seniors came up and said they didn't want to live in condominiums. They didn't want to live in two-story. They did, they said that. They
Did you watch
say-
the same video?
I watched the same video. It said they didn't want to live in condominiums. They didn't want to live in 2 stories. They wanted 1-story units because a lot of the seniors, whether they'll admit it or not, need both bedrooms because they both live in both bedrooms. As you get older and you age, sometimes you don't live together, you sleep together anymore. So you need both bedrooms, and that's what their concerns were. They wanted both bedrooms on one floor.
So,
Yes.
Yep, it was, I'm going back to the video, and I'm
I
also
don't
going
think you
back.
are.
It was
No,
on the video.
this conversation about open space, like everybody has a different definition of it
Right. So I
in their
think we
mind,
should
and
write
I mean that's why we've been at a crossroads when land comes up for sale. People want sports fields, and others want it to collect birds. I mean,
Right.
I think that the planning board needs to get on the same page or have because I agree. Like this is what they view it as, and some of us are sitting here agreeing, and others are in disagreement. And I think that is harmful to where we go in the future with some of these developments, because we've seen it go one way, and then we've seen it go another with all these past developments. And, it's all over the map. It's just up to the board's jurisdiction, but we're all over the map with our definition, just like the rest of the town is.
Well, I go back to the open space subdivision that we have. The open space that we always get when we do an open space subdivision, where we cluster the houses in one place and have the open, is large, contiguous, usable as a large parcel, maybe 10 to 12 acres of open
Kind of
space.
like Cooper.
No,
So,
not like, no.
Gray
so-
Farm.
Not like Cooper?
Like Gray
Gray
Farm,
Farm.
Gray Farm, like Cobb Meadows, those are,
so getting to that definition, so I think
Owned
it's,
by a person that-
so,
It's not owned by the town, though.
what I'm
Great Farm
saying.
is owned, the open space is owned by the owner of the
no,
parcel.
Gray Farm has been donated, hasn't the town, Frostwick and Gray Farm,
I think it's important that we, if we're gonna have applicants before us, we need to
I
be
agree.
consistent, right?
So
So
the-
we need to get a definition of what open space is gonna be.
Absolutely.
I don't consider.
I think we should look at other bylaws, town regs, state regs, and come up with an open space
I think we look at
definition.
our own open space.
Well-
We've been doing it for 20 years now, we have open space.
You might have been, we
The whole,
haven't.
the town has been doing it, we've had open space
Right.
bylaws, we've had tons of open space done, and this wouldn't fly as an open space subdivision. because
It just did on
there's
Mill
no-
Road, it just did on Mill Road. It just did,
Just did on Mill Road.
it just did. Am I not right? We did the same open space plan on Mill Road for an 8-unit open space subdivision. We even gave them open space in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah. Well, no, we gave, no. That, the difference between that is we had a conventional plan that was almost the same as open space, and the open space plan had less. This is entirely different. We want something out of this for open space. We don't want to take people's backyards.
I agree, but I think you twist it and then say, but they don't want condos.
They
But to
don't
get
want-
the open space, we need
No, you
guards.
don't. You could put less density, have more units on it.
With less
smaller-
density, we get less affordability.
smaller units, you get single-family homes. The town is built on single-family homes. If you remember when we met with
You
Judy,
just approved this bylaw for 8 units per acre.
and we approved it for 8 units per acre, when we talked to Judy Barrett, and we talked about a multiple use, when you had
It
single-family.
doesn't say multiple
Well,
use
that's
in
what
the
we
zoning
talked about.
bylaw.
It's not in there, Mark.
We were against, this is nothing more than a condo complex, and that's all you're trying to do, and you're trying to say the selling feature of this is that it's a 350 and up, and that's why we should
It
approve
is.
it. It's not.
We've
Mr.
already
Chair.
done that. We've done that
We're,
on White Street. We did the exact same thing, just less units.
if we're going to require town council to help us with this, then we should probably move on.
Well, we need to discuss it amongst ourselves, what we consider open space. It's not a town council, it's our interpretation of how we want the bylaw moving forward. This is the first one, and we need to decide how we interpret it.
But,
It's, let me.
so I guess I should apologize to everybody who's put time and effort and money into a proposal for a senior residential development, because we're obviously not gonna move forward with this one or any other one that comes before us until we have a definition of open space.
No, not necessarily, somebody.
All right, so let's make some decisions tonight. Let's give some guidance to a person who's proposed something that our town wants. Our town has said, we need housing for seniors.
Right.
They're proposing it.
The seniors
They're the
have
first ones before us.
Right.
Instead of berating them,
I'm not
belittling
berating
them,
them.
let's
Yes,
talk
you
to them,
are.
let's work
I
with
am
them.
not, I'm telling, you've heard from the get-go, we've talked about it from the start, that they want to live in single-family, single-floor housing.
Okay,
But you can't do that, Mark, and meet that price point. What is the price
Then we
point
say
gonna be
no.
on the one you're gonna approve on spec one?
Then we say
What is
no.
the price point gonna
Well,
be?
if I might interject.
We haven't got there yet.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, one of the things which is interesting about the senior residential bylaws compared to the old 55 and over bylaws was that you actually don't require them to be limited to owners who are 55 and over. Our development plan, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the number of units we're providing and the septic flow, will be limited.
We're not.
We're not,
You're not.
because
You
they're
can't.
proposing
110
110,
gallons.
right.
We're following the zoning regulations set forth. We want to build them for seniors.
And it-
I'm not going to be.
But it's not
picky
age restricted.
when
It's not
other
age
people
restricted.
aren't picky.
Not age
Okay,
restricted, no.
fair enough. They are, the market will have some impact on this. If seniors don't want this type of unit, which we've been told and which other units, our marketing has indicated to us, that these units would actually be desirable to seniors. And remember, we're talking 55 and over. This is not terribly old. But that these units actually are desired, and that we have seniors who are in town who have this exact same floor plan and are using it with one bedroom down, one above. Clearly, there are going to be some people who this unit doesn't fit, and we're not selling a unit for every single senior. These are 30 units. We would hope that 30 seniors would find this to be a very desirable floor plan. It won't meet everyone's needs. That's understood,
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
of course.
So, your other development at Cooper Farm, Dean Lane for the seniors, I appreciate that everyone here is trying to figure this out for our seniors in Littleton. can you tell us what percentage of those senior homes on Dean Lane are actually going to Littleton residents that have decided to do something like that?
Before he moves, let me just get that. We can't do a Littleton preference on the first 10% of anything that's affordable.
Okay.
It's against state law, so.
All right, so the question,
So I'm sure that if they could, they would make it so that only Littleton residents were the ones to purchase it, but they can't
all right.
do that.
Zero of the buyers on Cooper come from Littleton because they can't afford it. They're coming from Lexington, Acton,
Correct.
Westford,
Correct.
And
And that is,
and that's sad.
it is sad, and that's one of the reasons why, again, reducing the price point. I appreciate that it's at $350. Our seniors have come in and said that, some can afford $350, some even less than that. So, thank you for answering the question.
I think we
So
should,
let me pose this to the developer. So if you're providing us with the density that's required at 10%, and we meet that requirement, if we went over 10% with affordable units, at that point, we can do a Littleton preference. So in these negotiations, if you guys would keep an open mind and consider going above 10% in order to get a Littleton preference for 1 or 2 units, I think that would be an important part of the negotiation. So.
I would.
Isn't there CPC funds too available for that kind of stuff too?
I think we could talk to that committee about, there's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, there's inclusionary zoning, so there's other ways for us to raise money to create affordable units, but through this negotiation, if we could get a Littleton preference for 1 or 2 units, I think that would bode well for you as developers and get good favor from this board and from this town. So,
I'd
You
like
know
to,
me.
I do.
I'd like to open it up to the people that have come. There's people here that we've talked amongst ourselves a little. We still need to talk a lot more, but I think we need to hear from the residents in town. Does anyone, through the chair, have any questions or input on this subject? Yes, ma'am. Your name, please, for Myron?
I am Patricia Weber, and I have lived at the White Street complex for 2 years. And I'd like to just tell you, one gal has bird feeders out, has birds coming to her backyard. Most of the girls or people work. They're the 55, 65.
Yep.
There's only myself who's a little old, and another couple. I still am queen, the oldest. So, anyway, we're all very friendly. We love when we're in bed and hear the mower mowing our lawn, or the shovels shoveling our walk. It's marvelous. We sit on the farmer's porch, and when the neighbors go by, we wave. I'd love to have you, Jamie, come and see my place. I would love it. I'm in number 3.
Okay.
I would love it.
Thank you.
In fact, I have your grandmother's little braided rug at my city.
Oh, yeah?
Thank you.
I'm a townie.
I know you are.
Okay. So he has put in a full basement. Now, I came from 80 King Street with my in-laws. They came there in 1890, and I had so much stuff I had to go over. I brought a lot of it with me, and piece by piece, I'm going over it. I have never been so happy. I have no worries. He has, one of my concerns was, I'm going to hear my neighbor. I never do. It's so well insulated, I don't hear a sound. She goes to work at 7. I know she comes home at 5, but I don't hear her. And on weekends, we never hear each other. We're good friends. They're a group of wonderful people. And I'm thrilled that I have a place. Now, I have a walker who comes to walk around the circle with me. At my age, the circle is enough. It's a little bit of a hill. But this gal tells me the seniors are real wanting something like this. She comes down to the seniors. But I have to say, it's one of the best, it is the best thing I ever did. It's marvelous. And the comfort is wonderful. So I vote yes, more. We need more of these.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yes, sir. Name, please?
Andrew Kistler. I am the owner of 94 King Street. And I have a few questions both to the board and to the developers. First, I
What?
don't quite understand. You mentioned that it's not age restricted, right?
Sir, you gotta pass the question through the chair.
Yes. You mentioned that it's not age restricted community, right?
Correct.
There's a current hot housing market. What would stop like regular buyers to just snap all
It
units?
won't. It won't, there's no way to make sure that it goes to seniors. That's one of the issues. Otherwise, we would have it age restricted, and that's not what we wanted to do. So it can be available to anybody.
It's just a general question. Do you have any plans, drawings where you show this development in relations to other properties around?
They haven't done a large scale as of yet.
The first one.
Do that, actually, just to understand better where it's located.
Does that help a little? Is this you here?
Yes.
Feel free.
Yeah. That was, I was actually looking forward to see, speaking of open space, actually, and it shows some woods around, so it's just something to keep in mind.
But that's not theirs.
Yeah, exactly. One question I have here about this new road. Whose property actually, who actually owns this?
They do.
They have that 90-foot strip next to that area that you're parking right now, correct?
Because, just to make sure, because it was some kind of easement on our side here for like a driveway. Not sure where exactly, because here you don't have exactly exact measurements.
Do you own
The
the,
plan below, I'm sorry.
do you own the parking lot down off to the side? Is that yours?
No, it's not a parking lot. Our property ends somewhere here. So I'm just trying to figure out. Parking lot probably belongs to 80
Oh, yes.
King Street.
Yeah.
You're right. You're on the other side.
Just to make sure that it's
It's on their property, not yours?
right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the plan below shows in bold, the outline of the property.
Jack, would you mind picking it up, putting it up there now for the TV and the audience?
Next plan. I don't have that one in this package.
So you can see the outlines of the roadway coming in and then the perimeter of the property.
So that's 90 feet there, right? Is that what it
And
is?
we have a land swap with the owner of the abutting property to get 90, or 100 feet of frontage.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
It would be just a general comment. It would be nice to be in touch with the people who actually do this development and to have some business contacts.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Just Diane.
Diane Corey, 74 King Street. I just want to say that Pat and Michael, when they first said that they were buying this property and that they were going to be building there, they actually reached out to us, my husband and I, and explained what they were doing. And, everybody says as soon as people are going to start building behind you, everybody goes, they become a NIMBY. And I just want to say that if any builder was going to build behind me, I would say that I'm very happy that it's the Field family, because they're very open and honest about what they're doing. And I wholeheartedly am in support of what they're doing, no matter what, whether it's, all the units that they're doing. Everybody is pushing back on them, and I want to say that I'm right there, full support of whatever they're doing. So I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Mary on Tetzel Road in Littleton. Just a question for the board. A number of months ago, back in the spring, when they were here, I believe it was you, you had asked them to go back and look at their design to see whether or not they could take a block of one of these houses, townhouses, and see if they could eliminate that and build an apartment complex.
I asked them again tonight the same question.
Oh, is that not a possibility?
We're going to negotiate some terms, I think. We're going to work on some definitions first, and then I think we're going to try to negotiate a little bit different architectural design here.
Okay. I'm still
Yeah?
interested in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michael Zeldin, Law Ann Street. This is a what-if question. I'd like to direct the question through the chair to the folks who are interested in putting this together. If a real sewer system existed that could obviously would connect with what's existing in terms of the technology already partially exists at the high school, to what extent would, shall we say, in terms of flexibility and reducing cost, how much would a sewer system, if it were there, would open up the door to A, better utilization of the space, and number two, reduction of cost of construction and return on your investment? It doesn't have to be exact figure, obviously. What I'm asking is, we talk about open space. A lot of open space in this town is occupied by things that necessarily don't have to be there. Not everybody, but this happens to be a place where that comes into play, I think. I just want to get an opinion.
I'd love to tie into this.
We would love to. I mean, it would save us,
Great.
it would save us over $300,000.
Yep, and you could move units and have a large open
You
space.
could get the tennis court, you could do a lot of different things if you had
Set it
that
up.
ability. But I don't think the town's going to allow you to tie into their sewer system going to the high school.
Well, is a trade-off I've had this discussion before, not with the developer, but if the town were to trade off from additional affordable units in the style that the town was interested in.
It's a wonderful trade. We're in.
It would create a lot of open space.
We're in.
Thank you.
You create a higher affordability.
Smart.
Deeper affordability.
Anyone else?
We'll create more
in the
affordability, I'm
audience?
sure, too, right?
It would.
Yes, ma'am.
Minnick Vigansky, No State Road. I'm not a person who says not in my backyard, but I don't know a lot of the history of the senior residential development, whatever. And I'm curious if none of these units are purchased by seniors because they get snapped up by other people. Will the town continue to approve developments like this and still not create any additional senior housing?
That's a good point.
You know, I think the intent was to be able to, provide, I'm so nervous.
May I address that? Please, don't be nervous. Please, I'm Matthew Fields. I've had one of your neighbors up on New Estate come in and approach me for their parents. I've had more than 7 seniors already looking to move in.
At the price point of what you have?
Yeah,
At like $400,000?
they all know, yeah, yep.
Okay. And why not a 55 over?
It is a 55 and over. It is geared for a senior.
But there's no requirement.
There's no, you can't.
You can't restrict it by the zoning bylaw.
Our bylaw says you can't age restrict it.
It's not me.
I shouldn't say that. We can age restrict it if we negotiate terms and decide that that's going to be part of it. And if we go to an age restriction of 55 and older, they can reduce their flow rate on their septic system and also save money. But they then take the risk because with the number of the density, they might not be able to sell all of their units because not everybody 55 and older will purchase. So the whole idea is to make sure that we're not killing the developer who's trying to do something for our town and give them the flexibility if they have units remaining, that if somebody that's under 55, because I'm 47 and somebody shoveling and mowing my lawn sounds pretty good to me too. I figure I got about 10 more years, maybe less. So.
And Additional question, none are handicap accessible? Because
They're
they're
all handicapped
Because they,
accessible.
but this, with the second floor, so none are single.
Correct. And as Mrs. Weber said, she lives in one of these exact units down on White Street. The upstairs is geared for family members visiting or for medical assistants to reside there and have their own space.
All the units
Or
on
younger
White
youth.
Street though are one or two, right?
I'm sorry?
The ones on White Street are all like one or two units together, not 6 or
Correct.
8.
Correct,
Right.
they're either a single family or a duplex.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
Mike Morey on New State Road. I'm just curious, do you guys require a traffic study or anything for a development like this? Only because Millie can attest to it, that it gets pretty backed up a couple times a day and adding, I don't know, what are we talking about, maybe 60, 50, somewhat more cars coming out of one driveway?
We haven't, because it's not big enough to really warrant a traffic study. We can take into account the fact that, yes, the school's right there and it is busy and there is more truck traffic there, but we can't ask the developer. It's not big enough to ask for that.
That's fair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, way in the back.
Jason Burr, but what happens if the units aren't sold to people that are over 55?
They can be sold to anybody. It doesn't have to go to people
So
55.
if they're sold to families, what's going to happen with all those kids, the influx of children coming into the school system?
We'll keep our
It's
school
already,
population.
it's already overloaded.
No, so
Because we
actually, our
already
school system's on a decline for student population,
know.
so.
According to the report card that came out,
Okay, our number of housing units over the last 6 years has increased by about 11% in town. Number of student population has grown about 3%. So if we don't have a certain amount of growth in town, then our school population will be going down. It's just who we are
according to the
as,
report card that came out in
our
February.
student population
January,
has gone up
February,
about 3%.
The pupil population has gone up. You know, the teachers now have, say, 26 or 27 kids versus, they should be at 24.
Right, has
So if
gone
they
up
had
about
2 or 3,
3%,
Then
correct.
the school system would need to hire more teachers,
Mhm.
which is going to put a burden on the system. Our fire department, our police department, look at the crime that's gone up already just over the past 5 years of all this unneeded development that's gone on.
Thank you. Anyone else?
What's going to happen with the kids? Where are they going to go?
Well, it's got a
To
second.
school, they're gonna go to
More
school,
kids.
sir. Sir, they're gonna go to school.
System?
We're not a town that shuts their doors on people who wanna move in.
I agree.
So if we provide it, so let's say we have a unit that sells to a single parent or a disabled veteran with a child. Are we gonna say, no, you can't live here, you're not over 55?
Definitely not.
Okay, so we have the opportunity to provide housing for all types of people in
The
town.
town should be able to decide where all these people are going to go. Look at all the developments that you guys are allowing to be put in the town. Developers aren't here to help the town. They're here to suck the town dry.
Well, I.
That's a
Every piece
bad
of it.
description, again,
Look at all the
that
farm-
you're misinformed.
Look at, I'm misinformed.
You are
I've been here for
misinformed.
over 20 years. Look at all the
With an
farm
opinion like that,
land.
you should run and see if you get elected. That's what I recommend.
Look at, I'm not interested in running. I won't
Obviously,
put up
you're
with
just here to
crap
throw
that you guys
bombs.
do.
You're just coming in to throw bombs, that's it.
I'm here to throw bombs, really.
Really?
I'm asking what's going to happen with the kids in
The
the
kids are
school.
gonna
They're
go
gonna
to school. It has 2 bedrooms and we can't restrict that the kids aren't gonna come. That's one of the,
Exactly. So when you can't sell them, which is a bunch of, when you can't sell them, you're gonna sell them to individuals with 2 and 3 kids, which is great. I want everybody to come here and live. We got a great town. But what are you gonna do with the kids?
they're gonna, we can't not let them come in with kids.
Well, then maybe you should restrict some development.
We can't restrict the development.
Why not?
If,
When I moved here, it was like an acre and a half to build a house.
No, it's always
Now you
been an
can
acre.
Now you can pack 10 houses on.
it's always been an acre, sir. It's always been an acre. This is designed,
Now what is it?
it's still an acre. This is not. This is a special permit to come in to ask to have senior residential housing put in.
Right.
And that's what we're
You're
discussing.
not gonna be able to afford 400 grand for one of these
That's,
places.
you make a good point, and I happen to agree with you on that, but that's not what's, you're asking about that second bedroom, and we can't tell you what's gonna happen to
Well,
that
then
second
maybe
bedroom.
you guys should relook at this whole development.
We can't. We want,
Why not?
we
Why
want to do
can't-
something for the seniors, and if we restrict it to over 55, then the state gets involved, and then the problem with that is then their rules and regulations kick in, and no one will be able to afford these units. That's what we're trying to avoid. Unfortunately, it's got to have a second bedroom, and there's not, this is America. We can't tell people they can't bring kids with them.
I agree with you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Bob Stetson from Goldsmith Street. Just so you realize that the kind of housing that we're talking about here in a senior development, even though it's not strictly required that you be over 55, it's usually a two-bedroom setup for each one, right? So one upstairs and one downstairs.
Yes.
That is not going to be a slew of kids with people with, it might be a starter home for someone, as well as a retirement home for seniors. But it is not going to be the kind of housing that is going to bring in a group of young people with their parents, because there isn't the room for it in any of those. So that's just something to realize, that this is restricted to two bedrooms.
It's restricted to two-bedroom.
It is a restricted two-bedroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Suzanne Wilkes from Tonje on New Estate Road. What is the square footage of each unit?
1,230,
1230?
I thought it was 1320.
13, something like that. 13, I'm dyslexic. Thank you, 1320.
Anyone else? This is not the last time we're going to be discussing this, so can we wrap this up and decide where we're going from here? Anyone else have anything to say on this one?
Sorry.
Thanks.
Chuck DeCoste, 609 Newtown Road. Just, there's been a bunch of questions about crosswalks, traffic lights, all that kind of stuff with the development. If it were to be built, putting traffic out on King Street. It's a state road. We've been trying to get a traffic light at the high school when I was on the school committee 10 years ago, we started trying to get a traffic light on there. So as far as putting a crosswalk or a street light out there, I wouldn't hold our breath. It wouldn't end well. So just wanted to make that clear to everybody that if you're expecting to have a crosswalk or a street light out there, it's very unlikely at this point.
Thank you. Anyone else? Can we?
May I speak to that from just a quick? So then that makes the whole idea about a pathway into the high school area that much more important, because otherwise we're isolating the seniors to just that space.
I was trying to tee that up for you.
Thank you.
And we'll look at that.
All right. So what does the board want to do?
I'd like to take some time, if I may, to set up a meeting with yourself and I and them after we have a discussion as a board to determine what open space is going to be defined as by researching it and not just coming up with our own definition, but taking input from other definitions from
We
other.
have an open space bylaw that's in this town. You don't have to go anywhere but look at what our open space bylaw in this town is. But anyway, I have no problem with that. I think we should discuss that.
So,
Okay.
if I may, so all from here forward will have the exact same open space?
Yeah.
Okay.
We should have it. It should be that way, like it always has been with all the open space developments we've done in the past.
I think this is a unique property. I mean, a unique zoning regulation that needs to have a different thought about it. You're trying to make them affordable. The less units you put on there, the more expensive they're gonna be. It's all driven by the price of the land.
You know what?
And that's not your problem.
If I had Mr. Scott on here, he would sit there and do a dissertation of the fact that you can, if it was regular zoning, you get 3 houses on there, and you're going to 32 and all that. I don't want to go there because I'm a capitalist just like you. You're entitled to make money, and I don't even want to go down that road if I can. All I'm trying to say is that there's 2 things we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to make senior housing, and we're trying to make it affordable. And 400,000, in my mind, is not affordable.
We didn't say 400,000. What did we say, Mark?
You said 375 before, you said 350.
I said 350.
Okay, 350, and then you caveated by saying cost of lumber just went up 32.
I said that the last time we were in the meeting, too.
Okay, so where's it gonna be at?
What's the cost of lumber gonna end at? What's the cost?
The point is, we have an obligation to make it affordable, and make it,
There's a point where you can't sell it for more than, there's a price point, you can't sell a house for more than 400,000. You can't sell that 1,200 square feet or 1,300 square feet for 400,000. It doesn't comp out. Banks won't lend the money to
then
that.
why are other towns being able to do it? If you look around us, there are other towns here that are selling at $269, $299. And
Pick me one town.
Tingsboro.
Local, Tingsboro.
Tingsboro, how far is Tingsboro?
What is the difference between Tingsboro and Littleton, Mark?
It's still housing, that's my point.
Okay,
Land costs
so we're
X
trying to
amount.
keep people local that are in
Exactly.
town.
I'm
These
just
people
talking-
are leaving and going to Ashburnham, Shirley, Pepperell, because the land is cheaper.
Are the lumber prices cheaper in Tingsboro?
Hey, through the chair.
He makes a good point, lumber is lumber, but actually.
No, he doesn't make a good point.
But it's the land cost.
Land costs, you're talking about a 3-acre parcel right
Land
here.
costs are never gonna go down, they're gonna
Right.
continue to skyrocket, and it all depends on how much development is in the town. I mean, let's not argue anymore, okay? Like, I can't deal with this. So, we have another hearing that was supposed to open at 8:15. I think the board needs to have a conversation so
Reasonable.
that we can all kind of feel where each other are at, and, because we're on a similar path, but kind of going a different direction, so.
I agree, we should continue this till the next meeting. I'll agree, I have no problem meeting
love
offline
to.
with you and Mr. Mullen and whoever else wants to be there.
I would love
To
to.
talk about,
Maybe some seniors or something.
okay, that's perfect, so we're,
So next meeting, July 12th. I'm presuming you don't want to meet July 5th. Is that
right,
correct?
so the
July
12th.
12th would be the next meeting. Is everybody
Are
available?
you good? Perfect. July 12th, and like I said, you set it up and we'll be there.
Eddie, call me. You want to talk to Mark, and then we'll set it up.
Yeah, I'll work something out with him, I'll give you guys a holler.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mark, did you hear, did somebody make a motion to continue till?
I'll make a
July
motion to
12th?
continue the hearing till July 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have an 8:15.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Lawrence, it's on first now.
Thank you.
I mean, no one else is on.
No, there is. We got a big agenda.
Stop talking about it.
How are you?
Talking about it.
No,
Not gonna get anywhere.
But I really would like to.
Okay, number 3? All right. Sounds good. I will.
Great.
Okay, good. I will come by, for sure.
Is
Plus, I
Peter
gotta see
here?
that
Or you
rock.
going? No.
Good to see you. Happy summer.
Why is everyone else? This one's even bigger than the other one. I thought
Can we open this other hearing, please?
Yes, please, people, can we be quiet? People, sit down, can we try to be orderly? I know this is Littleton, can we try to be orderly?
Now you can use your
I did gangbang it, come on. Come on.
should I start talking about
All right, everyone, would you please sit down? Hello? Quiet.
Clear it up, folks. We got another hearing. If you're here to talk, go outside.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Wow.
We have an 8:15 public hearing, Aquifer Water Resource Special Permit.
Do you get that?
Hit it, Anna.
And,
Planning Board, special permit, 245 Foster Street. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 7, 2018, at 8:15 PM in room
Quiet.
103 of Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for special permits pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A and the Code of the Town of Littleton and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The application is for Aquifer and Water Resource District special permits under Sections 173 to 61 through 173-64, and any other permit relief as may be required under the Littleton zoning bylaws to allow the proposed use/project. Property location, 245 Foster Street, map R-11, parcel 3, applicant GS Holdings, owner Littleton Development Trust. The applicant is seeking special permit approvals to allow development of industrial zone property, including construction of a 35,000 square foot mixed-use commercial building and a separate 100-vehicle parking facility at 245 Foster Street. Application and plans can be viewed at the Planning Board and the Town Clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or provide written comment by June 7th to m2hill@littletonmass.org or P.O. Box 1305 Littleton 01460. Mark Moneri, Clerk. Annie Houston, Clerk.
God, I'm not even cold and you're already taking my place. Thank you, all right. Mr. DeShane, do you have a brief presentation you want to make?
Mr.
Brief.
Chairman,
Brief
Mr.
is the
Chairman,
word,
members
operative
of the
word.
board, good evening. For the record, Douglas DeShane, representing GS Holdings LLC, the applicant in this pursuit of these permits. With me this evening, Doug Shaw, who is the manager of GS Holdings, sitting behind me, and to my left, Ian Rubin, who is our engineer from Markey and Rubin, Inc. As was stated, we're seeking permits for the property at 245 Foster Street, which is located in your IA zone. It's also in your aquifer protection zone. We are proposing to develop a 35,000 square foot mixed-use commercial building, and as highlighted in our application, a 100-vehicle parking lot on the property as well. However, I have to tell you that we have, since we filed, we have been in contact and discussions with the MBTA, who have asked that we see if we could push that, and we are now going to propose 150 spaces in the parking lot. We have produced revised plans reflecting the 150, so you will have them, and so that they can be reviewed by your peer review engineer. There's plenty of space on the lot, it's 35 acres, and the MBTA is pushing us to increase that if we can. So we'd like to discuss 150 spaces.
Do you have a letter from them?
No. No. So with that, in being brief, I'm going to let Mr. Rubin give you a quick overview of the technical aspects of the project.
Good evening. What we've designed is there's this one building with mixed use and parking in front to the side, and the main road that goes through goes behind the building and crosses the wetland. The way it crosses the wetland is an existing bridge, and it's being widened slightly to allow pedestrians to cross. The drainage is shown on the plans. The drainage next to the driveway is for the parking and the building, and the driveway behind, when you cross the wetlands, you have drainage there as well as porous paving for the parking. And then you can also see beyond that is the septic system for the building. And if there are any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them. That's essentially a description of the design.
Ian, I do have the other plans if you want. Just tell me which sheet that you want shown. So.
Well, everything's on that plan
that
right
the
there. That's good.
150?
Yes, that's the 150.
That's the
part,
150
yes. Right.
lots.
That's a good plan.
It's also over here.
Sewage disposal system,
Oh, okay.
way over there. Septic system way off the back. Who's gonna control the parking lot? Is it private?
GS Holdings, yes.
It's not gonna go to the MBTA?
Not at this point. They haven't committed to buying it.
So as a parking lot, it's gonna be spaces for lease, is that
Yes.
correct? In that for lease, do you have an idea of what the 150 spaces would generate per year?
Roughly 180,000.
180,000, would you be willing to share any of that revenue with the town?
Be willing to offer up the parking spots to the town of Littleton first, to the residents of the town of Littleton. I do have a business partner that I need to talk with before I can commit to doing something.
So I know a lot of times with host community agreements done through the select committee sometimes, and to speak more directly, is sometimes like with the adult use marijuana bylaw, they're entitled to ask for in the host community agreement an additional 3% of the revenue generated from sales. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity to generate some revenue for open space for our town. So just something, if you would consider it, looking at sharing some. I'm building off of something Mr. Montanari did years ago with with his board back then with cell towers. They committed some funds. The cell tower companies would commit funds every year to go to open space. So that's revenue stream's getting a little dry these days, and open space is getting more expensive. So if we could look at a way to generate the revenue, we'd like to enter into that discussion with you.
Through the chair?
Go ahead.
Did you say through the chair first?
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Yes, Mr. Scott.
I gotta have some fun. I've been sitting outside for a while, you know, eating ice cream. The state's looking at buying this, is that?
No, I didn't say that.
But is that a possibility in the future?
Well, I believe the MBTA was here to meet with town officials some time ago about improvements to the station and building of parking lots, and I did attend that meeting, and I think what I got out of that meeting was that the MBTA was looking for the town of Littleton to actually build the parking lots for them. They were not committing to come in and do any building of any parking lots, as I recall from that meeting. Whether they would be interested, and maybe that's why, Mr. Scott, they are so, adamant about saying, geez, the more spots you could provide, the better, because I don't think they have an intention of building them. Whether they would buy them,
Well, under the circumstances, if the state turns around, they have to do it at market rate and pay whatever they have to do, and they turn around and have you build it, and then they turn around and buy it. Does that mean it goes off our tax rolls if the state owns it?
What is the disposition of the other parking lots right now? The state owns those, right? The MBTA?
MBTA owns those. I don't know how to answer the question on the tax bill, but I can ask. Yeah, that's,
Anyway.
Yeah, we'd have to look into that, Peter. Get you an answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anna, do you have any questions about this?
Yes, just a few.
How many questions do you have about this?
Just a few. So the building has the parking facing the street. Was there a reason for putting the parking spaces facing the street versus perhaps putting them behind the building? And just for aesthetics.
Ledge, there's a lot of ledge in the front of that property. So it would be, we would have to do a fair amount of blasting in order to move that building forward.
So when it's all done, could you do something to beautify the area so that?
Of course, yeah, that's
Lots of cover and.
anyway.
There's no question, and if you'd like, we could propose a landscape plan for the parking lot so you can get a better understanding of what we will commit to doing. Is that?
That would be really helpful, especially because you come down Foster Street and you have all those lovely trees, and to suddenly be accosted by a lot of cars, I think that would be helpful.
This is Foster Street.
What is the walking distance to the actual current train entrance, or will there be perhaps a second entrance? Because it looked like that parking is quite a distance from where the train entrance would be. Do we know?
If you look at where our parking lot is and you see the two lots, those two elongated lots that are in front of it here, yeah, thank you very much. Those are existing, those are the existing MBTA parking lots.
Right,
so-
and that's where the entrance is to the train station.
Right, so you'd have to walk from there, although we are in discussions.
Yes, we've been notified of a grant
In discussions for?
that would allow a bridge from our parking lot
Okay.
to the actual
Okay,
station.
great.
It's not 100% guaranteed, so I don't want to commit to you.
So perhaps a bridge?
But that is our goal, and we are working very hard on that. But otherwise, you'd have to travel from our lot, I guess, through to the existing entrance.
So I'm just, yeah, that would be really helpful, because I'm imagining people who are running late to try to catch their train.
That's a lot of running.
That's a
Yeah,
hike.
exactly. Have you considered what type of retail you would expect there?
So there's no retail allowed in that.
Oh,
location.
no,
You could
I'm
do
sorry.
Restaurant and commercial.
Restaurant
Well,
and
you're not
commercial.
limited. 10% of the building
Right.
would be,
Okay, so that would be
But
limited.
so no.
Okay, good.
no.
What are you anticipating to put in the building?
Well, we are working within your table of allowed uses, which would allow for restaurant uses, coffee shop type of restaurants, no drive-throughs, but you could have coffee shop, you could have more of a restaurant, and so we're talking with those types of tenants. We're talking, we can have office space, which is, probably the majority of what the building would have to be. Talking with an adult daycare, provider to see if that would fit in terms of use and space. You are allowed indoor recreation, some of these boutique gyms, the smaller little, I don't know, bar, or there's a bunch of them. Those are allowed uses. So we're in preliminary discussions with potential users, but without having a building or permits, we can't get any commitments, or we're working on them. But we know that we're going to have to put uses in there that are allowed, and quite frankly, given the location with where the train is, we're hoping to provide the kinds of uses and services that would interplay, like I think a coffee shop and a restaurant or a small convenience store as part of our limited retail would be, well received by people who are parking there and going to the train. The other uses would be not necessarily directly applicable to the train station or the people using the trains. But I don't know, maybe people would go there for a quick workout before they jumped on the train or after they get out. But yeah, those are the kind. I mean, we're looking at the allowed uses and trying to fit it in.
Okay. Mr. Muller?
Well, he's complying with the zoning that's required there. The other two parking spots, how did those get approved? The two parking lots that the MBTA does own, did they go through a process with the town?
Yep, site plan review, just what we did.
We did it with Nordblom when we were understood that the MBTA eventually was going to be the owner of it. That's the only difference. And
I'm not saying we don't hope the MBTA will purchase them. We just can't tell you that they've offered to or that they're willing to do that right now.
it creates an interesting situation, because how can we just approve a parking lot? We, like I said, when we did it, Keith isn't here, is he? 50 years old? Yeah. Nordblom came in, and before it was even done, we knew we approved it because the MBTA was basically buying it.
Right. If I recall, you modified a prior special permit that Nordblom had for office park on the rest of the site, and approved it that way. So it was both site plan and special permit at the time.
Yeah, but we did it because we knew the MBTA was buying it.
So after the conversation or the idea that I just brought up, we're generating revenue and getting a piece of the pie so that we can put it towards open space. I'm not sure that I'd want to see it go to the MBTA. I'd rather see it generate revenue for the town. So that would be my position. And if that was an agreed item in the decision, then I would be in support of the parking lot.
So you're trying to say that if it doesn't go to the MBTA, then
if it makes money for our town so that we can generate income for open space.
Where's Richard when we need him? Oh, my God. I guess that's an interesting way of looking at it, yeah. Because it's really, there's no way we can just approve a parking lot. I mean, it doesn't really fit with anything.
Is it?
But I can see that. I could see the greater good and maybe.
It's pretty hard to deny a parking spot for people who are parking all over Foster Street.
Well, no, I get, yeah. But it's still, our bylaw doesn't allow us just to.
Denying somebody a place to park on Foster Street is not necessarily the bottom line here. We've got a bunch of people that live on Foster Street. So.
Which I'm well aware of.
That might be here tonight. I'm just guessing. Anyway. Jamie, do you have anything to?
Well, it's apparent that we need parking down there. The commercial building, I understand that, like a coffee shop and all that would probably be beneficial, and it should probably be up the alley of a lot of folks. There's nothing over in that area. Driving around, there's so much empty, new commercial space. Like if you drive past Kimball's, going into Westford, that whole new development there, and they haven't gotten any tenants. And then a lot of our old stuff, when we talk about like building new commercial buildings, I just stop and look around at all this dilapidated old stuff and all this new stuff that just is sitting. And so that's just thinking, what are you going to put there? The coffee shop, I can see that being positive. Daycare, that's a really cool idea, but who knows? Gym, there's like every type of gym imaginable in the town of Littleton at this point. But, so anyways, but obviously Yeah, you drive around, it's incredible, the parking, what people make
you
for
know,
spaces over there.
Believe me, my clients have been through this analysis as well, and I mean, honestly, the fact that its location relative to the train is what sort of makes, as you say, the base of this work. The problem you face, though, is this is an industrial-zoned piece of land. And if I go through the use table of what, you know, is allowed by right here, I would just guess that a lot of the residential neighbors and others would be, you know, not be comfortable with the heavy industrial uses that are allowed by right out here. I mean, warehousing, trucking terminals, I mean, I don't have to tell you. So I think in terms of an industrial piece, we're going to the softer use that's allowed.
Oh, I'm not questioning
Yeah.
that, just, just wondering how, just more commercial space, I guess. There's so much
But it does
of it.
increase, so my opinion of commercial space is that if it's occupied and rented, it's generating income for it.
Right, absolutely. I'm just referencing all the empty stuff that's out there.
Mr. Scott, do you have a?
Well, the chicken and the egg. What's going in first, the building or the parking lot?
Together,
Same time.
yeah.
Now, we had this conversation once before, and it had to do with what is permissible in there. And I understand there's a whole slew of things that are permissible. Whether or not they're feasible to put up in there, I mean, a brothel, I don't know. Maybe it's permissible, but would you make any money in there? I doubt it. So, well, then again. So
I mean, I appreciate the board's concern, but at some point, my clients make a business decision that they believe that this can be a successful and profitable endeavor. And, I mean, that's the American way, right?
It is, and I agree with you in that respect. But I also have a bunch of people that paying big money in real estate taxes, and they want to try and keep part of their home style life in one piece. And Foster Street is awfully busy. And now we're going to take some more, but again, I think the way you portray what is permissible there would be a little more
Yeah, I think you're liberal.
advantageous to.
I agree with you. You're a little liberal in what you think is permissible in there, but,
In what regard, Mark? I need to know, because
well, I mean, I wouldn't say
I just read off the table of use.
retail, anything retail is, I don't think is, with the exception of the restaurant, retail's not allowed in the industrial A.
Well, that's all right, regardless.
The bylaw says that under certain conditions.
Under what
10%.
conditions?
Well, Mark, I'll read you your bylaw.
Well, 10%, you're looking at a 35,000 square foot building.
That's a 3,500 square feet of retail. Certainly big enough for a convenience store, a small shops, that's.
Well, yeah, but that's one. What are you gonna do with the other 2,700 square feet of it, 27,000
You
square
don't have
feet
to,
of it?
he just went through a whole list of stuff. I think we're
There's
just
a whole
repeating what he said.
list of potential tenants we're seeking, and we do have interest in a number of those categories.
My point is, by right, you can put a coffee shop in there. Would you be happy if all you put in was a coffee shop?
No, of course not.
Well,
Why do you think we can't put a restaurant in there?
Well, I'm saying a restaurant slash coffee shop. You put a restaurant slash coffee, I don't think you're gonna get any argument. That's an allowed use in there. Retail gets real muddy after that. It has to be,
I agree with you.
okay, and that's all I'm trying to say is, would you be, if you wanted to put a coffee shop slash restaurant in there and get rid of the 35,000 square feet, is that something you would entertain?
Why do we want to do that?
And just for the record, we're looking at coffee shop, restaurant as two uses.
So,
We're talking with tenants that would be a coffee shop. We're talking with tenants that would be a restaurant. Both called restaurants in your use table, but just telling you that we have more than one restaurant use that we're working on right now. I thought you were saying I was being liberal on the allowed uses in your industrial zone when I was talking about warehousing, truck terminals,
No, I don't think-
manufacturing. Those are all allowed uses in your IA, and we're not going there. So I would hope the neighbors would appreciate that we're going to the softer side of industrial development.
Board, have any more questions? I'd like to see if the neighbors have anything.
Go for it.
Anyone, through the chair, please raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you. Sir, right there in the green shirt, name, please?
Anthony Rosillo, 290 Foster Street. I have a couple of questions, two of them. The parking structure, how many levels is that going to be?
It's flat. It's not a structure, it's just a parking lot.
Oh, it's a parking lot, so it's a single level.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing is, can we get a traffic study for it? It seems like 150 cars. It's already busy enough for a two hot lane street. And it just seems that's going to add a lot of load to that street. We already have all the load from the T station. And being upwind of that, that's going to come right by my house. I don't think it's coming through the center of town.
Can I answer that?
That's fair.
Sure.
My understanding was that there was an extensive traffic study done in September of 2017 on both sides of the MBTA, on all of Foster Street. So we would be happy to produce an expected traffic generation report to show you what kind of traffic this proposal would generate, and then that could be compared to the existing traffic study to determine whether our traffic load or expected traffic would in fact impact the level of service on Foster Street. So sure, that's a question we're willing to answer to the board and discuss with the board, certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'll get you next. Go ahead.
Sonia McCallum, I'm at 230 Foster Street. I would like to second that concern about the traffic. There's no sidewalks on that street. I commute down to the train every day for work. I walk, as do many other people on the street, and there's no sidewalks. There's no edge of the street really. It's because there is that ledge right there. So I would be very interested to see if there was any ability to change the street to make it safer for people who were dealing with an increased load. Particularly, I know there's kids on the street, I know there's elderly people who walk, people bike down it all the time. I think that having an increased load on it would be pretty detrimental to the neighborhood in general. I'm also concerned about the amount of empty office space there is in town, and I think that if you were planning to do offices, you should definitely consider that. Mostly I'm worried about the traffic on the street. It's already pretty strong, and there's not even a line down the center of the street. It's not a big street.
You don't get caught drunk driving like that, crossing the road.
I mean, the street's also not in fabulous condition already. There's a lot of potholes on it.
Drive faster and you go over the bumps.
Yeah, right, just take the corners at a turn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, on the back, go ahead. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Quinn Canfield, 238 Foster Street. My house is going to be, well, it would be directly across from the upper right-hand corner, I think, of that development. So I've been in the house for 20 years, and prior to that, I used to work on Foster Street back in the 80s, so I've been familiar with there. There's never been any development that wasn't residential on our side, the uphill side of the train track. And now you're proposing to put, that's sitting smack dab on the street. It's not set back. The whole complex there of stuff that I can promise you, because many of my neighbors are here, nobody wants a coffee shop in my neighborhood. No one's coming to the train station to get a cup of coffee or in a Saturday afternoon. Personally, I'd rather have, you sound like you're threatening us with a heavy industrial thing. Instead, I would rather have that, because those jobs are done at 5 o'clock on a weekday. I don't want either, by the way, before you shake your head. But given the trash I already have in my yard from everyone coming from the train station every day, I'd rather have a heavy machine thing going on there than have a development that's full of coffee shops and gymnasiums and restaurants, not retail. So this seems like a horribly thought out plan that benefits nobody but the developers. It certainly is not being done for the benefit of Foster Street, or for that matter, anyone in town. Nobody's coming to Foster Street to get a cup of coffee. So that's one point. The second is there's a bridge that already exists, I believe was referred to earlier, that connects the retail space on the street to the parking lot, which I believe is down by the train tracks. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I think it's in the middle. It's in the middle of the property.
Yeah, that's the bridge
there.
right there, right?
Yes.
Just make sure I'm talking about the right thing. So there's no way on earth that's being reused. It's barely 1 lane wide. I walk my dog out there every single morning, as do some of my neighbors that are here. So I assume that's all gonna get dug up and redone, is that accurate?
No. They can still
It's not
use
even
that
one, it's
bridge.
one lane wide, so are you proposing a one-lane bridge?
It's the width of that road, which will be 20 feet at least, so.
It's existing
26 feet. 26, it's 26 feet wide.
wide right now.
Yes,
That's a two-lane road?
yes.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Thank you.
Lady in the back with a hand up.
Jen Stack, 40 Bulkley Road. So I want to just add Bulkley Road to the mix because I think it's a little bit overlooked in this conversation. Every morning, I can tell you when the train is about to come by because cars are flying by my house from Acton every morning. And it is dangerous. Our kids are waiting for buses on that road, and more houses are being built in that area, so more and more kids are standing by the road waiting. And I know that the traffic study did not include Bulkley Road. So I don't think anybody in this room can really speak with any certainty or factual basis about the impact that this particular project will have on my neighborhood. Because if your traffic study is over by the train tracks, you're not looking at Bulkley Road. And we have people, if you don't know, Bulkley Road ends up over by Idlewild. So people fly over from Acton down that street. And I would really like to request strongly that further investigation into the traffic impact on Bulkley Road be done prior to any new parking spaces being built. And that includes whatever the Grimes Lane conversation was, and I don't remember all that stuff that got publicity with the senators coming and whatever to possibly put parking spaces at Grimes Lane. I don't think y'all are thinking about Bulkley Road in this. Foster's the obvious victim here, but we feel it too, very much so. And in the 15, 16 years that I've lived on Bulkley, it has never been resurfaced. It is cold patch and hard patch. It is already a terrible road. And if we're talking about putting 150 more cars a day through that road in that neighborhood, we need sidewalks and we need a new street. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live in Milwaukee for 50 years.
Gary Wilson, 1 Wilson Lane. I appreciate what Jennifer mentioned, just about the traffic flow, for sure, Bulkley, Crane, the whole area, but I don't see how this can be done without sidewalks.
Yeah.
You know, there's a good 6 months out of the year coming down Foster when the sun sets at 5 p.m. and people getting off the train and walking and riding their bikes. I can't believe nobody's been killed on Foster Street from the snow, when the snowbanks are there and when they're not, but it's a very bad mess. So there has to be some conversation to line up sidewalks with this, you know, either by the town. I know there's been conversation about grants and other things, but I appreciate, you know, the idea of commercial in here. It is something that does take a lot of the burden off residential, as we know, our tax base. But with that, we haven't even talked about, you know, the trash that comes with all of that as well. So it's, you know, aesthetically trash and the danger with the sidewalks, traffic. It just seems like we really have to get those things in order and how we're going to deal with that before we just jump into this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Linda Ficacello from Bumblebee Lane, and I just wanted to mention, and I agree with a lot of the comments that have been going on, but I just wanted to mention about the timing of the traffic, that now if we do put things like restaurants over there, then not only is it just going to be that busy daytime traffic, but we're also going to be having additional nighttime traffic. And I think that really changes our lifestyle in that area. And I know that, you know, in some other discussions or whatever, you know, if we widen the street or change that street somehow, or put a stoplight at the corner of Harwood and Foster, it's going to be terrible. I mean, we live in Littleton for a reason, and I think we like our streets and we like that area. We have a lot of wildlife areas in that stretch, right? So Harwood breaks up, if you think about it. So I'm on Bumblebee, and we have a waterway that goes kind of through. And I watch, and all families of little animals go across, and they walk across the street, they go over to Bumblebee Park, there's Bumblebee Meadow there, and then it links up to Littleton Forest. So we have town forest, and so we have a lot of area right there where animals move too. So we're also thinking about, them and the impact it's going to be on the wildlife, not just even of that area, but all around if we increase the traffic. I mean, the other day, there was a deer that ran by, I had to go out to the street and make sure the cars stopped and everything. So, I mean, just think about how this is going to be if more cars are here at night, for instance, with a restaurant and such.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else?
I'm Michaela Chilonk. I live at 203 Foster Street. I'm 17. I take the train every morning to school. So I walk down the street every morning, and sometimes it is absolutely terrifying. Like one day I almost witnessed a head-on collision of one of the cars was come on to someone's yard, like a truck and a car was smashed. That was right in front of me. I've also been harassed on the train, and commercial or like restaurants and such would attract not only like people for business, but like loiterers as well. And I would like to feel safe when I go to school and come home each day.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Brian Gannon, 172 Foster Street. Has there been a study to actually put sidewalks in? Is this even a conversation that we should be talking about?
Actually, the town has been able to have added to the tip, we'll get highway funding, state and federal highway funding for improvements from Taylor Street up to Balsam Lane. And they'll include complete streets components, so bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. The exact design, it's, the town will be paying for the final design on that. So that's that part of it.
Where is Balsam Lane?
Balsam Lane is the new Durkee Farm Estates, the roadway that
So it
goes
won't
in.
connect from the fire station to Taylor Street?
That's not part of that, but Littleton has adopted the Complete Streets program, and I don't know if any of the boards have talked about it, but it's certainly my wish for the town to look at extending that, at least sidewalk improvements from Balsam Lane, to Harwood, and then to Hattawan, and then
I'd like to suggest a site walk from the fire department to the train station. Everybody can come, 5 o'clock, any day of the week. Seriously, like, if this is something that's gonna happen, then everybody should see how we live. Pay huge taxes, I've got 2 kids, I can't even leave my yard. I'm not even kidding.
We probably should probably should have a sidewalk there. Yes, it's a good point. Yes.
Chuck DeCoste, speaking as a member of the Board of Selectmen. We are in the process of adopting our goals, and transportation is always on our radar. And this past Monday, we spoke specifically about this, through the chair to Mr. Gannon, about not just to Balsam, but going the other way up to Taylor Street, as well as all the way at least to Harwood, and then ultimately would love to get it all the way back to the fire station and to the town hall. So it's very much on our radar. I mean, the TIP program is an improvement program through the state where we get reimbursements, but it's like anything else. We want to build a senior center, we want to build a library, there's a lot of things we want to do, and it's all a matter of budget. But it is something that we are talking about, and one of the proposals we made the other night was earmarking a certain amount of money so that every year we can do, I don't know, a quarter of a mile of sidewalk, or some number. We have to figure out what the numbers are and talk with the director of Department of Public Works. But it is something that's very much on our radar. It's just a matter of us having to prioritize, just like repaving roads and everything else. But it is something that we have on our goals.
Oh, actually, I'll get him first since he hasn't spoke yet.
Sorry, Jim Toole, 141 Foster Street. Couple things. I know you mentioned a crosswalk further up Foster. I believe this young lady might walk past my house, and you're right, it's terrifying. That corner there, you can't see people coming or going, and I think the previous chief of police said at one of the town meetings that Foster Street is nothing more than a wide cart path.
Yes.
And in that section, it kind of is. So if you're increasing traffic, and again, I'm not saying that you will. I think the study's a great idea, but you can't just say, well, we'll put crosswalks at one side of Foster and not the other. In fact, up by the train, well, actually, after you get past the train, I think it gets a little bit wider, but not very much. So I think, one of the things to think about is getting crosswalks on all of Foster. I have to be honest, I don't ever walk out onto the street there. In fact, I actually get my mail by going from behind the mailbox and opening it up, because God knows when someone's going to come flying around the corner. And I actually replace my mailbox at least once a year, because somebody's nailed it. In fact, I think the telephone pole has been hit twice there since I've lived there. The other thing, which I don't know whether it can or can't be done, but just food for thought and idea, if there's a way to keep traffic from, and I don't even know, because I'm probably not intelligent enough to tell you whether this is a right move or not, but when you're leaving the train, if everybody can go towards Taylor, it's better equipped to handle traffic in that direction. Again, and I don't know for sure whether that's the right move or not, because I'm not an engineer, but just food for thought. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Back into 238. So there's, I believe, within a house or so, there's only 3 or 4 houses between Balsam and all the industrial places that are towards Taylor Street. That's not where we need sidewalks. I mean, granted, those office buildings have lots of people who walk at lunchtime. But those aren't the people walking to the train, they're not walking at night. We need it on the other end of Foster Street, so that just seems like whoever made that decision seemed like a poorly made one.
I'm on that end of Foster Street, I walk to the train station and I walk at night.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, the bulk of the town goes the other direction.
Hey. Everybody walks everywhere there, okay? Mr. Scott, did you have a question? Did you have something?
Well, the cart path, yeah, that's what most of New England was made out of. Cart paths turned to pavement, turned to cars, turned to driveways, turned to, remember where everybody lives, it used to be woods. So if someone's proposing something, and whether I agree with what he does or he doesn't, there's only so much room you can put a road in and you can put a sidewalk in. All you guys that live on Foster Street, are you gonna give up 7 feet or 8 feet of your front yards for a sidewalk? And if you're all happy about doing so, put your name in a hat and send it down there so that they can not necessarily put all their directions over on Taylor Street, maybe a little more on Foster Street. But again, somebody has to give up something to get something. So, and I grew up in town, and someone was speaking about the last time their road was paved. Well, my neighborhood down in Manawanaki has never been paved. So I understand, but I like Littleton. I liked it for it to stay the way it was when I was growing up. It's not like that anymore. It's unfortunate, but it's not.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Joe Dedisi, I'm at 286 Foster Street. Moved here about 2 years ago, and I love this town, okay?
Oh, welcome.
I'm one of the few houses up by Taylor Street. Now, we're gonna be severely impacted by this, because most of the traffic is gonna be coming from Taylor Street. I mean, they're not gonna come in from the long way of the Foster Street. And I live right on that corner, and I can't see cars coming until the very last second. When I have to literally low crawl to my mailbox and make sure I'm okay. I mean, I wasn't worrying, but I still don't like to do it. And it's just a scary thought. And there's another thing too. You're right, we only have a few houses on that side. And now it's gonna be like we're aesthetically trapped in between a commercial land. And it's for later down the road for resale, I don't think it's gonna help me. You know what I mean? I don't wanna be in the middle of a commercial industrial
It's
park.
always been that way.
I understand that, but right now, it's just adding more to it, is what I'm saying. Like right now, I can deal, but anymore, it's just too much.
Just the speed limit.
Yes, sir.
John Court from Ernie's Drive, 27 Ernie's Drive. I drive to the train every day. I sympathize with the residents about the roads there. They need serious improvement. The sidewalks are very needed. But when it comes to parking, everybody knows that parking lot gets filled up by 7:45. There's like nothing left. That's why everybody's parking where they shouldn't be. So we need some new parking, but if anybody builds on that land, I think the town should request that residents get lower price parking, because West Acton, or West Concord and Acton have parking for their residents at lower cost, especially West Concord. So if we can't get a spot in Littleton, a lot of people will drive to West Concord to park, because they have overflow. But the residents, they pay like a permit fee, and they park at a permitted fee per year. Right now, it's about $1,000 to park a year through the MBTA. And I think I did a quick, back of the envelope number on the 180,000 a year. That's about $4.50 a spot per day, maybe $5, and probably go up. But the residents need lower parking.
Is that what you pay over in Concord?
Yeah, $4.50.
About $5 a day?
Yeah, that's about right, $4.50.
And Acton.
So, you pay. But I think as a benefit for our town to have lower parking for residents, to give an incentive to take the train would be good. Again, I sympathize with the residents of that area, and the road should be able to handle it. But if we could work in something about the town gets some space for resident parking, I think it would be very beneficial.
Thank you.
Any new information? Because we do have to, way in the back again.
Just if the hat's somewhere near, I'll give the 7 feet.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anthony Insalvi, Assistant Town Administrator. We understand the parking and the sidewalks on Foster Street from the train station up to Howard. Our Director of Public Works did put in a TIP project. A TIP project is a Transportation Improvement Plan with the state. The state told us that that didn't score well, so they recommended that we go on the lower end of Foster Street down to Taylor Street, with the hope of the next time for the TIP project, we could connect that up to Howard, and that would score better. So we did try, and it's a lot of money. And this was the state's recommendation to us.
Well, there you go.
Mr. Chairman, can I just throw something out? Only because I've been involved in a number of projects in other towns. Where our project is proposing commercial development, it's proposing this parking, and I know there's been a lot of new residential development in this area, and given the fact that the train station is there, this project may actually allow the town to seek Mass Works grants for street improvements, where it's a mixed-use project, where it has commercial parking, the MBTA is there, and with all the residential, those are the very points that the Mass Works program looks at to...
Have some familiarity with that? Have you met Anthony yet?
Well, we will talk, but it is a great, potentially an opportunity, because that's what that money is for. But you actually have to have projects that are approved and shovel-ready that qualifies you for the money.
Oh, you snuck that one in, huh? Nice move. Nice.
Well, listen, the state's economic advisors and people who control that money, they're doling it out to towns that have approved projects that are providing this. We just did one in Tingsboro. We had housing, we had commercial, we had business. We got $2.5 million. Chelmsford's been able to secure a couple of multi-million-dollar MassWorks grants because they've approved these mixed use. And I'm telling you, the fact that the MBTA is there and is desperate for parking is only going to make your application that much more. So I will speak with him, and just something I want to throw out there.
I think we should do a sidewalk. I think
Sure.
the board should come out.
Whenever you want, we'll accommodate it.
When do you guys want to get out there?
I'm not walking anywhere.
Would you want to ride your bike down?
I've taken my advice from these people out here. They're not walking on that street. Crazy, I'm not stupid.
You want to do it on a Sunday? Is that what you want to do?
My knees are shot. I'll ride.
That defeats the purpose. I think we should do 5 o'clock on...
You be up front wearing that shirt, and then we'll all hide behind you.
I will be there. 5 o'clock, wait, what day?
Well, it has to
Well,
be.
what good is a weekend? We have to do it during the weekday. Can you do 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock? What day?
Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Excuse me. We're gonna walk the site at 5 o'clock next Thursday. We're gonna meet at, where are we gonna,
To meet at the train station?
We'll meet at the train station at 5 o'clock.
Walk the other way.
There is actually sufficient area.
I'm gonna park at Mr. Gannon's house and walk down.
If you'd like. There is sufficient area to pull off onto our property. There's a road, a driveway, and plenty of parking, so don't park on Foster.
5 o'clock next Thursday, we'll at least look
We'll
at
be
it.
there.
We'll continue this till, I'll take 1 or 2 more, and then we've got to move on. Yes,
So
sir.
is this hearing about changing the zoning? And if we change the zoning,
Zoning's in place.
we can put this in with no problem?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
And if we let him put this in now, is there anything that's gonna withhold him from expanding in the future?
Well, the site is designed to put, for a huge complex back there.
No, I'm just talking parking lot.
Oh, no, parking lot right now, this is the third parking lot that's been proposed.
So that thing can
in
turn
there.
into one giant parking lot.
It could theoretically, yeah, it could.
Right, it would have to go through the similar
Same stuff,
approval
yeah.
process.
Anyway,
Review
so,
process.
well, yes, one more, yes, sir.
Greg
Something different.
Belzar, 284 Foster Street. To everybody else's points, it's a, at times, a nice quiet country road when people aren't leaving the T. And I live kind of overlooking the street, and I see people going by at a very high rate of speed, past Buckley. And it amazes me, in 16 years, I haven't seen somebody get killed pulling out of Buckley. It amazes me. People are flying by, taking their sip that they bring with them, their coffee, taking their sip before they're about to park, and they're going by the house. I can't believe nobody's been killed. And like everyone else said, it's a narrow road, and there's plenty of traffic already on the road. I can't even picture this being on our street. When I tell people where I live, they say, oh, Foster, I love that street. Why? Because it's a nice street. And I think this is going to wreck the street. I don't think it deserves to be there. When people are going to the train, they're flying by, they're dropping off people or parking their car and getting on the train. They have it down, I watch them. They have it down to the minute, okay? Some other people walking them, okay? They have it down to the, and when they leave, and when the people drop people off, they come flying by the other way. And that's what more people are gonna be doing if this goes in. And when people leave and the car is parked there, they get in the car and they fly home. Nobody's looking to shop. Nobody's looking to go in a coffee shop. They don't have time. They're getting the butt on the train. They don't have time to say, oh, I'm going to walk over there, get a coffee, and then walk down. Are you kidding me? They're cutting it so close. They're not going to go get a coffee. They bring it with them. And same when they get off the train. They don't want to go shopping. They don't want to go get a coffee.
All right, I'll
They want to
take
get
him.
their butt in the car and get home to their family.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
no reason. We've opened space at the Point. The Point's beautiful. Everybody goes there for retail, there's open spots there as far as I can tell still. We have Starbucks, what else do we need? All right?
Okay.
We don't need a coffee, we don't need any of this there, it just doesn't even fit on Foster Street.
You don't like coffee, I got it.
Shouldn't even be considered, shouldn't be considered until the sidewalk's down the whole street.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you.
thank you. Sir, in the back. Last one.
Sami Aslam, 4 Jillian Way. Question for the developer through planning board. What other permits are required and they intend to apply for?
We're gonna have to go to the Conservation Commission,
There's wetlands
How
involved.
about,
and then ultimately the
Army Corps of
building
Engineer?
inspector.
Army Corps of Engineers?
Excuse me?
No, Army Corps of Engineer, no, why?
Yes,
Yes,
he
wetlands.
didn't let me finish.
Well, that's not Army Corps of Engineer, that's Town of
It
Littleton.
could be Fish and Wildlife, right?
Concom,
Concom?
yeah.
That's DEP.
Yeah.
What else?
DEP, through the Conservation Commission, Board of Health for septic approvals, Building Department for building permits,
And us.
and Planning Board, special permit, site plan review.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to reschedule this continue this until the
July 12th?
July 12th. We're going to do a site walk next Thursday at 5 o'clock.
The engineers are reviewing, are going to review the drainage, your peer reviewers.
Peer reviewers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, what about the study on Bulkley Road? Is that something we can request?
That is, no, we're going to be doing zone, we're going to,
So you offered to add an addendum to the traffic study that was done in 2017?
I propose what we'll do is a traffic generation report, which will tell you what our traffic
He wants to
will
piggyback the
generate,
one he's already had.
and the times, and then I will get a copy, I'm sure
What's the
the
problem with that business?
September 2017 report is readily available. Yes, I'll get
A
that.
rough idea how long that would take?
Okay,
We
take
can
them.
probably generate something by the next time we see you.
By
As far as
Thursday.
the traffic generation.
So for the sidewalk?
Oh, no, not for the sidewalk, for July. when we
Okay,
come
that
back.
was my
Yeah.
question.
They
Okay.
haven't, more than likely, if you simply contact the company that did the one just recently, why don't you also include Bulkley Road? Is that the road that, is that what you asked, Hannah?
Yes.
I haven't
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you from
proposed
over
to do a
here.
traffic
Talk a little
study
louder.
of street.
I will.
Thank you. Could you please include,
We
Buckley Road.
will find out if Buckley Road was included in the traffic study.
so be it.
And then
I got it.
we'll find out what ramifications it would have on it, and whether we need to include Buckley Road or do something.
I got it.
Okay? That's our job.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this public hearing to July 12th.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Next item.
As you started,
Hey, Ed.
could have stopped. You didn't have to go through the rest of it.
Next item.
Oh, we have an 8:45, continued site plan modification, 245 Taylor Street. Please take it outside, please. Outside. Do we have anybody? Is anybody here for 245?
No, you have a little
2, 3, 4?
Gotta yell.
Outdoors,
So look, what I'm
please.
gonna do,
Outdoors.
close out
Still in
these
business.
tabs, because you're finished with
Good at
these.
like yelling.
I don't yell, I try to be civil. All right, do we have anything for 234 Taylor?
Doesn't matter whether you touch that or that.
I'm using this to find.
I know.
234
space, and
Taylor
then you
Street,
hit the
anybody?
button.
Well, what happens
Going,
if I do?
going.
Nothing, oh, yes, you did.
What?
All right, now you're back to just the planning board meeting, okay?
Is anybody here for what we got next?
That's what I'm trying to find out. Site plan modification, 234 Taylor Street.
outside. Thank you.
234 Taylor Street, is anybody here for that? Myron?
See? See how that works?
Grow a pair.
Fire.
There's
We
nobody
have-
here.
Next.
So I've had some
Wait.
email communication with the gentleman from Sanctuary Medicinals at 234 Taylor Street regarding their red line revision for site plan changes. They have gone to the police chief, the former police chief and now the new police chief, asking whether or not the gate that was originally in the site plan was appropriate. And both the former and the new chief have deemed it actually to be an attractant to criminal activity if you lock something off. They'd rather not call attention to the building, so they've asked them to exclude the gate to Sanctuary Medicinal's grow facility. Another part of that is that the state recommended that the landscaping not be improved much more than beyond what it already is, because they don't want individuals to be able to conceal themselves within the landscaping. If you plant too much too close to the building, somebody could hide in there, ambush somebody coming out.
Why
So-
does Anthony look surprised by what you just said?
No, I'm not surprised. They have a extensive security system there,
Right.
so.
So you-
I've been there, I've toured it.
So you think that the gate is redundant and actually draws more attention than it does good? Okay.
I attended their community meet and greet that was required by the CCC. And one of the individuals, one of the abutters, came in and spoke about how he can see more of the buildings and the mechanicals now. So if there was somebody here from 234 Taylor Street, I would say that it would be my opinion that because the police chiefs weighed in on the gate and the state weighed in on the landscaping, that to grant them the relief they're asking, but to still provide the screening from the abutter that talked to them at their community meeting.
Well, wouldn't it make sense for them to be here to
Yeah.
express
Yeah, I just
that?
wanted to bring you guys up to speed on the
Alright.
conversation.
I
I don't
think
think we should continue it or ask them to reapply or for, because it's
Well,
another.
somebody should be here.
All right, well, they're not. Next.
Well, that's it. We're done after this. So how do you
Motion
want
to
to handle
close.
it? Do you want to give it to them without them in
No.
absentia, or do you want them to come back on the 12th and just give it to them then?
Make them come back.
They should come back.
Well, I
should
think,
come
I
back.
think it's important that they hear that we're mentioning that they should screen for the abutter, so I'm all in favor of having them come back.
All right, why don't you have them come in on the next meeting and tell them that we're okay with getting rid of the gate. We just want to see what their screening for the abutter is going to look like, and we'll get them in early so they, they don't have to wait till the end. Although 8:45 is pretty early. Anyway, do we have any other business?
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Can we shut down?